calling the select board meeting to order. First up, are there any additions or adjustments to the agenda? And I have one, right after our committee update. Are there any additions or adjustments? An item for us, so we'll just put clerk treasurer report. Is that where it goes? And also at the end of the meeting, I believe time wise, we're gonna need to schedule a special meeting early in July to set the tax rate. So that bills can be sent.
What day?
We'll just pick it at the end. We don't need to hold everybody up. You're open to whatever is first, second, or third of July. Any other additions or adjustments? Anybody?
Nope.
Hearing none. Next up is review invoices and orders. Those are headed around right now. Next up is public comment. Is there any comment from the public?
Up anything we want.
Anything you got?
Okay.
Anything and everything? What you got?
Are there any plans for sidewalk between here and Dogs?
Rosemary could probably answer this best. The sidewalks are owned by the village, not the town. I believe,
Yeah, it's a Coleman study.
I was gonna say, I believe that they got a grant for a scoping study. Which would be,
The reason I'm asking is I walk up. We noticed that they moved the guardrails out 5 feet into the road. And you can't walk into it behind the guardrails from this end. They took the end guardrail and dove it down into the long grass. I saw a guy jumping over with trench coat, didn't know the idea.
my goodness.
So we should at least straighten the guardrail. Put one of those, I call them a ski jump on these new guardrails. So that people go on behind it. Somebody's gonna get clogged. I went down through with my bike and I usually ride between the guardrails and the road and I opted to walk my bike behind the guardrails. Somebody's gonna get clogged.
Took a piece of paper. What do you do? You take.
I can let the trustees chair know.
Yeah.
You know, I just gotta start somewhere.
Yep.
You pick it up, like.
Only other thing that I see, it could be. That's the sidewalk that goes over the Guyon River right here. Grade, these bridge is actually 3 inches higher than the sidewalk,
There's mine.
Where?
right down the road, 100 yards.
With the bridge, the guy on the Main Street Bridge.
Yeah, the bridge is higher than the sidewalk.
Yeah, it's just from heaving and settling.
Gotcha.
Either the bridge should be ground down or some kind of, no, I don't think they could make it over the bridge.
Okay,
Rest of it, I'm here to listen to.
fair enough.
You got 3 hours?
I've got all kinds of.
Might be 3.5. Is there any other public comment?
Should reference that. Gone in the winter, they don't like that.
No.
Hearing none, next up is select board issues or concerns
Do I
and
have an extra?
updates. Are there any issues, concerns, or updates from the select board?
I have one. I printed one for myself, so.
Okay.
Do you have?
John, could you give us an update on the status of the municipal building work?
Yeah, so, Dale kind of put things back in a temporary position and right now they're balancing the library work and here at the same time. The library work, obviously, every delay could cost us $600 a delay, per day. So the focus is over there, but today the library mover actually called out sick, they weren't able to come up. So there was a crew here, it's continuing to move forward.
We don't have like a firm date of completion.
I think it's just gonna be balanced off both. Nobody really knows how the library foundation is gonna go, whether it's gonna take 1 day or 3 days. It's a pretty complicated set down. So they have all hands on deck over there while they shim the building and then once that's stabilized and move back here. The air conditioning units have been delivered and the A-frames have been installed for the exchangers. They're just, I think they're waiting on ductwork and then line sets to be put in.
Okay,
But things are moving forward with the heat pumps and the exterior blood membrane as well.
okay, we don't have a date for the ATV completed either.
No.
Alright,
Are we on select board issues and
Yeah.
concerns?
And updates. Is that all you had for the municipal building?
Yeah, I mean, I heard 2 weeks for both of them, but I mean. They have to work off each other. The flood membrane and the AC needed to happen. There was specific timing based on putting that rack in, and so they're just. Within 2 weeks, but the library again is holding things up right now.
Okay. What do you have, Duncan?
So I just wanted to let everybody know that I was contacted. Some of you may also have been too, by Mike Mignon. With regard to V-Trans alignment in front of his store. And as near as I can tell, Mike had contacted V-Trans because he has blocked off the access to 100C. And he wanted to try and do some changes there. He was then contacted by V-Trans and V-Trans told him he was gonna have to do all of these things with regard to the right of way access. And that was, as I explained to Mike, that was all done and approved as part of the Main Street improvement project that was undertaken by the village back in 2011, 12, whatever that was. All of that was approved, so they, in my opinion, they can't now come back and say, oh, you've got to do, as long as he leaves it like it was, I don't think they can come back and, tell him he's got to do X, Y, and Z.
But you know how the state is.
I do know how they are, but there was a
I know.
permit
Deal's a deal.
issue.
Deal's a deal.
So, it's not our concern, the permit was issued, my recollection is the right of way permit was actually issued to the village of Johnson. But in that process, they clearly approved the plan set. Which is what got built as part of the Main Street project. So anyway, for your information, I'm just throwing that.
Yeah, if I could add to it, I did some research back with the sidewalk, grass to clean and. But what I found out then and then resurfaced with this same concern. Is that the permit was issued to the village to do work, but it's not like indefinite. And the right of way is controlled with the state, but in conjunction with the town, so. You do have a voice in all matters within the Route 15 right away. And two, it wasn't like a formal complaint or permit issue, it was just an individual stopping by saying, hey, we can't have people backing out in the Route 15. If you don't hear from me, nothing's gonna come out of it, but he needed to, the AOT individual needed to run it up and just check on. That's as far as much as I heard to add into it, so it might turn into nothing, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, what Mike said was that the V-Trans representative came back to him and said, this is what V-Trans wants you to do.
And they talked about St. John, 100C and. A whole bunch of changes that would eliminate like 10 parking spaces for them.
Yeah, basically, I mean, his concern basically was it was gonna put him out of business.
Exactly.
If he did what they wanted him to do. So anyway, I think at the end of the day, it's an issue between the private landowner and V-Trans. In terms of the right of way issue. But, I was contacted by him and I gave him that information, but my recommendation. To him was get a copy of the approved plan set for your building location and copy of the V-Trans right of way permit to the village of Johnson. And push back. So. Must it be.
Okay, any other updates?
Actually, I have one more. They just or the sculpture Michael Stanley just installed the flower sculpture at Old Mill Park last week. It's called Midge's Flower, so really pretty. So if you get a chance to go look at it, there's gonna be a plaque installed on it too in the coming weeks. But yeah.
Okay,
Was he the guy that was here at a meeting? 3 months ago?
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I don't see any planned purchases in the packet. Nothing's changed there, Tom.
So that one more time,
There's no planned purchases that I've seen in the packet.
no, nothing that's not in order for.
Yeah. All right, next up, we have our committee update from Tuesday Night Live in the bread oven, and Howard's here. Tuesday Night Live's first.
There's some additions in the packet, so if it's talking, you can read along.
Which,
Just right from immediately following that and the bit before. Take down that. You see his report for the board and then.
Yeah.
A follow up. Kind of a project to us.
So have you all looked at the, I wrote 2 of these things up for your behalf, in your behalf. And Tom, you've given them both to everybody?
The one that you emailed today, I just printed and put it in the packet for them tonight.
Okay,
And the one that you sent last week is they've already reviewed.
okay, all right. Any questions to me about Tuesday Night Live and anything at all? I mean, you know what it is. And
What
you
is
know
it?
how much it costs you. Zero. So far, 0.
I haven't had time to go through your email from today. I did read your report over the weekend, right? It's interesting, is Tuesday Night Live possibly thinking about maybe Tuesday Night Live would move?
We don't want it. The committee doesn't want it. We are gonna be in Old Mill Park this year. There's a first look at the poster.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Mhm.
You know, so we'll. But we're calling it, we're thinking of it as an experiment to once and for all put that to rest. That we would really like Tuesday Night Live to stay where it is. And if it has to go somewhere, it should probably be thought of as going to whatever happens to the buyout properties. You know, what that's gonna turn into something green down there, and it may well be that we can fit Tuesday Night Live in with that. I don't know. But certainly not the ball fields. No way.
Just because it's too big and
Because we take up a lot of room. You know, we've got 150 feet of signage. Has to be up there for the whole season. It's gonna be harder and harder to sell that stuff if it's down out of the public view.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a fiscal reality of ours. And there's that, and the fact that we would have to come up with a portable stage somewhere because we can't take over the ball fields for 12 months with a bandstand. There's no power out there at all, and it's gonna cost a pretty good money to just outfit the new location of the bandstand, wherever it is on Legion Field. It's gonna be 5 times that if we have to go out there. I talked to the electric foreman. What's his name?
Nate Brenner,
Huh?
Nate.
Nate, thank you, Nate, yeah. A few years ago when we did that, when we got power to the rail trail. And he had figures for me off the top of his head for put 200 amps on the fields was gonna be, you know, $35,000 or something lovely. And that's nuts. You know, we just, and we like Legion Field. It's the right size. It's, if the audiences are a little cramped, that's great. It's better than having them just out of one person there, one person there, one person there. Which is, you know, what we're sort of afraid of. All our shows should feel well attended.
When you sell like your signs for like the season or something, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we have 3 levels of sponsorship. $250 gets somebody a sign at 16 inches by 8 feet.
Mhm.
500 gets them a sign that's 32 inches by 8 feet. And $1,000 gets them a full sheet of plywood, if you will.
You guys
For-
paint those each year?
We do,
Okay.
yeah.
Installation's free.
Installation is free, except when you're involved.
Howard, did you see that the Historical Society gets one of those posters for the,
Oh, sure. Well, they're gonna be all over the place.
right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And
You
you
bet,
know,
Mike.
one of the glossy ones or one of the ones that last for a little while, are they all gonna be just like that there?
They're gonna be like this. The final poster is that size.
Okay,
And that's something, this is one that I printed up on paper I had,
okay,
but they'll be glossier than this, I think.
okay.
We haven't really figured that out yet, but
I'm speaking, I don't wanna speak out of turn,
no, it's-
Lois, but you know, I think the Historical Society would like one of those.
I would think so too. Be happy to give you one
Thank you.
or two.
Howard, I just wanted to clarify, committee would like to remain at Legion Field. The reference to a riverside park of some sort might well mean the bandstand and TNL would move there. Is that an option that the committee's considering, or even considering that, stay at Legion Field?
Don't know. We really haven't discussed that to any length. Listen, folks, I don't know what you think of the political moment. But I'm not at all sure. I would not bet any money at all that FEMA has any money to buy anything out a year from now or 2 years from now. So I'm not banking on it.
Mhm.
Why Doge hasn't gone after all after FEMA's bankrolling these things, I don't know, but it's, you know. So we're not making any plans for that field. I also don't even know who's in the buyout program down there, you know, so I can't even get a visual in terms of what properties are gonna leave all that open. Got a pretty good idea, but I don't know. Hasn't been made public as far as I know. Has it? Yes?
It's
Huh?
No.
hasn't been like not published anywhere, but
Yeah.
it's, we wanted to know I could. get-
Okay, well, I would like to know. I'll stop by them. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, we just like Legion Field, and we're thinking to like it even more with the library there. And you know, the elementary school loves the library, loves the bandstand, and so does the library. I mean, you know, it's you know, kids are sitting in there all through the school day. A lot of the times, you know, when the weather's good, teachers bring their classes out there and all. It's well used. It's not just 8 times a year, not at all. We've had a couple of weddings out there a couple of years ago. You know, it's a nice little spot. And it would be a shame to not use the grant that for 30 grand that we got to bring that field up to snuff.
With the grant, was it awarded, like, did you guys apply for that with Randall? Okay, TNL did, okay,
Yep.
alright.
Well, there were 3 of us who were the stakeholders, if you will, the oven, TNL, and recreation.
Oh, okay, the stakeholder group did,
Yeah.
okay, so not just TNL by themselves,
No,
okay,
no.
Mhm.
But always with the idea that TNL was going to be moving the bandstand if it was necessary. We didn't even know that at the time, that the grant would cover that. Originally, the first couple of meetings we had, the other members kept asking me, how much is it going to cost to move the bandstand? And I had no idea. And I kept saying, I don't know. If it's $15,000 or $2,000, I have no idea. Since then, I basically do know now. It's going to be about $5,000 to move it, which fits comfortably in that grant, which leaves 25,000 to do the other stuff.
Mhm.
So like that.
Has the curb cut already happened?
I don't know.
Okay,
I haven't seen anything out there, but I've been in Maine for a week, so I don't know what's going on.
okay.
So Dale Tatro and Kyle Tatro are donating the sidewalks in front of. The library. They also donated their labor to remove material around the current bandstand so that they could do the beams underneath. And they, when they pour those donated sidewalks, since I'm gonna have them do the curb cut at the same time, it should be under 3,000, but we already approved it. And since they're pouring concrete all at once, you might as well have them do that at the same time.
There's a little demolition that's gotta go on, because there's a curb there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, by the way, we're tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, myself and 2 or 3 other guys are all going over to Waterville to load the 5 24-foot hardwood beams that will be put underneath the bandstand to move it. So that is underway. As of tomorrow, we're gonna start moving materials and machinery there. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and where it's going is anyone's guess. We're just gonna get it out of the way for the time being.
The actual location.
Yeah,
That was my question.
yeah. We're just gonna pull it out 50 feet and stop. Something like that.
Field's gonna get a little smaller, a little cozier.
It is.
There's no concerns with that.
Huh?
No concerns with that.
I mean, there's not much I can do about it.
The library isn't really encroaching.
Not much. It's really just a couple of feet. It's where our usual sponsor signage is on that side of the field is back against that wall of the library, pretty much. It's not bad.
No,
It's gonna feel big. But, cause you know, you got a 5-foot berm and then you got a 10-foot wall and then you got a roof. But,
it was where we expected it was gonna be in the beginning. It would not have been an issue.
amen.
And the road on the other side, however it works out.
The parking on the other side, yeah.
Scrunch it a little bit. Paul, you had a question?
Just briefly with respect to Howard's comment that the Tuesday night might eventually end up over sewing market or something. Last week, Seth Benton and I, Nelson PC, I talked to Ernie Pono about, all things that might be considered there. And he's hopeful that the FEMA buyout comes through, but he said he's got confirmations in the file, but he has no idea where, nobody can give any feedback, so. If it happens, maybe when it happens, who knows?
Yeah.
So thinking along the line of an interim home, at least for Tuesday Night Live, is something we need to be doing. The other quick comment is this a separate discussion from the Legion Field hearing kind of date?
Yes.
Determined?
Yes.
I'll shut up.
Promise? Are there any further questions from the board for Howard?
How is like adjusting to shows this season going through?
It's been a bear.
There.
It's been a bear. Our fundraising is slower than it should be. Several people said, two shows, even if it's 4 bands, nah. And then some people are, every year. We have a few sponsors who don't because it's been a bad year. Or flooded or whatever, and then, but we had a couple, and it's been the same this year too. We're about where we normally are in terms of our fundraising, but this is a real expensive year for us. This is a real expensive year, and I do not know what I'm gonna do if we come up short, but we'll figure that out. Yeah, if we were to go to Old Mill Park every year, we would be starting with probably doubling or at least doubling our ability, our need to raise money, which we cannot do. There just isn't a business around here to do it. And so that's just one thing. But yeah.
You have vendors still?
Yes. Tomorrow night after tomorrow night, I'll be able to tell you how many.
Okay.
We generally have 10, we shoot for 10. I think we're maybe down to about 8 or something like that, which is still pretty good.
Okay.
Okay, hearing nothing else,
So notwithstanding your concerned comment about FEMA's availability to fund buyouts. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but I believe the state is in possession of the funds already that would pay for the buyouts.
At least all 16 through the HMGP program. I'm assuming, but I can't say with confidence for the Swift Current program, which is one property.
Yeah, I think the same holds. Don't quote, but I think the same holds there. So the bottom line is unless the current administration tries to claw back funds from the state, I think the funding exists
Really?
for the buyout.
That's awesome. In fact, the first property in Johnson there's already been one offer that's been for buyout, which means if they sign on it, they could receive it. Great set.
So if that is in fact is the case, and the Swift and the Commonwealth property becomes a subject of a buyout.
Yep.
I guess my only thought is, I hope the Tuesday Night Live committee will entertain the future possibilities of actually having that as an.
Oh, of course. Oh, no, we're,
exposure's big there,
you know,
exposure is big there.
The exposure would be
oh, yeah.
in terms of your signs and your sponsorship.
Yeah, and then you get a chance to design the, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be fine. We would be
Okay.
good with that. We would be very happy.
Good to know,
Yeah,
there's only reluctancy on Old Mill Park.
huh, right. Yes, that's right. Reluctancy is a very polite way of putting how we feel about it.
Fair enough. I don't see anybody here from the bread oven committee, but we did get the report. It's pretty straightforward,
Also break even committee
yeah,
and one of the best community events every Thursday night.
yep,
You know, you guys
for
can
sure.
go hand in hand if keeping the summer fun, so.
Jackie said she would be here, so maybe we come back,
Are we a little early?
huh?
Are we a little early?
We run behind habitually, and
Actually, you do, but I mean now.
we're on time,
Oh, we're on to, whoa,
yeah.
I'm gonna get out of your way. I don't want to spoil that.
We could select a future committee, you're good.
I'm good.
Before you leave, though, I did want to recognize the great work that Tuesday Night Live committee has done, and what a wonderful community event Tuesday Night Live is for the entire community.
Thank you. It's nice to hear.
And again, thank you for taking the reins.
Yeah, you're welcome. This is my last year.
Is it real?
Says one of the members of the committee.
We don't have to accept his resignation.
That's right, we don't.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be back over from the coast of Maine for every Tuesday night, I can tell you. All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Future committee, how's the board feel?
Does
Does the planning commission have anything good for us, Paul?
No, I'm just giving us
Next month, early July?
update meeting.
Would it be a good time for the planning commission, or you think
7:21.
board okay with that? All right, wonderful.
That's the 21st.
No,
Mm,
correct.
It's the, yeah, third Monday.
Got it.
All right, Adrian, do you want to take committee restructuring next steps and presentation?
Sorry, Devin, I think that she's like on her way right now.
So do we want to restructure and pick an easier one that we can get done?
Yeah,
All right,
The hearing.
we could do website real quick.
we could do website and hearing. Is the board comfortable with that? Okay, so we are shuffling a little bit, but I believe the website item is a request from Adrian for authorization from the board to sign DNS waiver.
Yeah.
Correct about that?
Yep, so.
Am I using the acronyms correctly?
Yeah, I think it's. Yes, so I just need to know who should sign the waiver and if they're allowed to sign the waiver. I did want to note that we could like launch it tomorrow. I've requested some changes that you all have sent to me and other people have sent to me and I've given them. And if they've done like half of them, but not all of them. One of them is kind of concerning to me because it's a fake job opportunity on there that I want them to take down. It says a groundskeeper that I just did like dummy text for. And I've said it like multiple times in emails for them to take it down and haven't taken it down, but, we have everything in place to launch it, except we need to sign the waiver, and they said they were fine with us launching it without signing the waiver. So, I don't know.
I guess I don't understand what the big problem is about getting rid of that.
I don't know.
Are
They-
we not
they-
able to do that within our own staff capabilities? Does it require them to?
I don't know if we
Do that?
can make page updates like that. We might be able to once it transfers over, but we can't update it before until it launches.
It's like it's not live, so. It's just floating out in the ethers that only they control, and then we visit. Until it launches. Once it launches, then we can get in the back end, maybe, but they haven't. Been entirely forthcoming with what controls we have and don't have. Sure, it'll come to light pretty soon.
Yeah.
Again, that website is kind of a disappointment.
Mhm.
The current item we have
Uh,
is a motion to authorize Adrian to sign the DNS waiver for the website.
we have a motion, do we need a motion or a second?
I think it's very clear. We need a motion.
Okay, I will move that we authorize Adrian to sign the DNS waiver
For the website.
for the website.
Second.
Perfect. Motion a second. Further discussion?
Are there, I read your email response, are there any downsides to?
No, it's
Shine
just
the
like
light.
saying, it's basically just saying like if the site goes down, that they're not like liable for it.
Yeah.
And if it goes down, it's probably not them, it's probably a bigger tech issue. So, yeah, it's just like kind of protecting themselves. But,
Big corporations and their paperwork.
yeah.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And the ayes have it.
But did we get any applicants? For the groundskeeper?
No. Nope.
All right, next up, we have a couple other ones we can shuffle over in interim here. We have a date for a hearing to schedule, date and time. We also have to schedule a special select board meeting for setting the tax rate. So, as Paul was gonna say, when Howard was up here, I believe he has had conversations with VCRD and they're willing to facilitate a public comment process for Legion Field planning, but they can't do it till September. Big question from the board, do you want VCRD to handle it? Or do you wanna just schedule a public hearing? And did I get that right, Paul?
Perfect.
I'm confused, can you repeat
So-
what you said?
So Paul has talked with VCRD, who did the Reimagine Johnson process, and they're
Yeah.
willing to facilitate a public process for Legion Field planning. Only if we want it. They're willing to do it for free, but cannot do it until September or later. The big question was, does the board want VCRD to have a public Q&A planning process, or do we want to just hold a public hearing?
In fact, I think sometimes it's helpful to have an outside facilitator who's, skilled at that, and. That's what they came back with. They love to do it, they had grant, they had money, they have staff, the computer. Possibly cover some incidentals like food or whatever, but they just can't do it till September, so. It's.
And they're well versed with our community, which is, they're invested in Johnson now for the rest of the year.
Yeah, they're.
Why do we even need it?
Well, Tuesday Night Live was actually, came out of the communications committee, was it? Lois, you were on that committee. From the original community visit back in 2004. Was it 2004? Yeah. So going way back, they know about Tuesday Night Live and Legion Field. My question is, I'm not opposed to the idea of having them facilitate, but do they do so based on some parameters that the board sets, or are we turning them loose to do whatever they want?
For a Legion Field plan,
Yeah,
I would say we need to set some parameters. That's a personal feel.
Yeah. Think if you give them the big box and nothing play in it, that you come out with a great product.
Only issue I see with having it in September though is that we wanted to do grading on Legion Field. Could we still do it like in October? There's a plan in motion.
I think we should do the process regarding,
Okay,
I think they're two,
they can have.
we could have the facilitation up here even. Doesn't, it would be nice to have it on site, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay,
Yeah,
But will we still be able to do the work we want to do in the timeline that we need to do it in? So what part of that was leveling in anticipation of the ice rink?
well, we have a few. Here's why I think you have to have that meeting first. And the reason is set baseline elevation has been established by the bread up. And so there needs to be some amount of space established for that. From there, you can grade away to meet the ice rink. And so until you know where the ice rink is gonna go, you don't know where to grade away to. Right? And so I think right now it's like the three main components or four main components are library activities, ice rink, bandstand location, and bread oven. And I think until you put those all together, it might be, grading might not be a wise idea. Cause I see when you do the grading is when you do the earthwork around the bandstand to elevate up to, you know, cause that has like a graded plateau around it. But I think September. We don't need work done really till April. I mean, we could do all the work. Up until November even, you know, and then grass would grow before the first Tuesday Night Live and bread out.
okay.
Yes.
Nothing is easy.
But we can do it if we try.
Does the board,
Good song.
does the board wanna, does the board wanna schedule our own public hearing or ask VCRD if they'll facilitate it with guidelines? If we wanna just do our own, that's fine. And we can pick a date right now.
I like the idea of VCRD doing it.
That's how you'd rather see it too, right, Paul?
I prefer to have them do it, but I was disappointed here, they couldn't do it till September. They're just sitting on hands for a couple months, so.
What are your thoughts, Adrian?
What were you gonna say, Joe?
It seems to me that there's just like so many balls up in the air. I don't know why you would not want to wait till September to do this.
can you speak up, Joe?
I just think there's so many balls in the air with that field and with everything else. You know, Tuesday night I was already talked about their willingness to possibly use to a new site. Which may or may not be understood by September. You know, rather than having a design process where you're talking about things on the field that you may decide not to put.
So do you think in September is fine, or would you rather see
Maybe
it sooner?
September's fine, and I think having an outside facilitator is what, in my opinion, has been missing from this process so far. You know, an outside facilitator and the public input. I mean, it's been handled, I think, by a couple of vested interests, you know, who run events on the field. Basically, at this point, but it hasn't really been opened up to the community and coordinated with you know, an unbiased facilitator to bring all the voices together.
Outside the facilitator takes it off our plate, plus it's free. What more could we have?
We'll make a formal motion to request facilitation services of VCRD with the town providing some parameters and guidelines to the process.
One second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, further discussion. And I have a clarifying question. Who do you want to reach out to BCRD with this information, so it's clear?
No,
I mean, Paul has to contact Tom would be a good choice as well. I just want to make it clear.
Can we add that as an agenda item for a future work session meeting? To develop those criteria and then have Tom or Paul communicate directly with BCRD?
Sure, it's not gonna be this whole September, we got plenty of time.
Can you,
With respect, I
let's-
think we ought to get on the schedule.
Yeah,
If you tell them, yes, if you're gonna do that, let's tell them, yes, we're interested, we'll get back to you.
Right, that's what we're gonna do.
You don't need to know right now, or do you?
okay,
Whatever you guys
it
want.
seems like. Tom. Next planning work session, meeting agenda, parameters for Legion Field, planning with VCRD. Paul or you will reach out to them and we'll take the time slot with parameters.
But we think whatever comes out of that process, will come back to you folks to approve.
Yes,
That's what town property would have to do,
Hear everything plan and
right?
go do it.
Yeah,
Totally agree, yeah.
it'd be good for them to have the parameters first, so they're not
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Doing things that aren't possible.
All those in favor with the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
All those opposed? And the ayes have it. Jasmine, if you could be patient, we reshuffled a little bit. The board, do you want to meet July 1st, 2nd, or 3rd to set the tax rate? You're right after Jasmine.
I can do this first and second.
Duncan, Adrian, Duncan,
Yeah, first and second are open for you.
first and second, no difference.
Mm,
Oh, so I guess the third's out. So you guys are narrowing it down.
My daughter is gonna be here visiting and she's leaving the 2nd. So I would prefer either the 2nd or the 3rd.
Second it is.
Yes.
Wednesday, July 2nd. Tom, can you? Want a special meeting? Is the board good with 6? We're setting the tax rate.
Is that pretty much the
You're good with
only,
that?
only item we'll be doing at that?
I hope so, because we're meeting 5 days after that at a regular meeting.
well, you're the chairman, you make doggone sure, that's the only thing.
Working on it.
Does anyone know when Justin's grievance hearings are? Will they be done by then?
Oh, yeah, they're like this.
I was gonna say, the 17th is the last day, is it? Jasmine, thanks for joining us. We reshuffled a little bit. We're running ahead of schedule, if you can believe that.
That's great.
You said 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah. Any questions for Jasmine with the bread oven committee report?
What's your favorite type of bread?
Favorite type of bread?
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of oven?
Challah. I like challah bread.
Ooh. I like the caution.
I would also echo the comment that I made earlier. I don't know if you were here when I complimented Howard on the great job Tuesday Live has done. But I would extend that to the great work the bread oven committee has done. And I think there were some, honestly, I think there were some naysayers when the bread oven was built, but to me, it's a great community asset.
Yeah, I remember I remember like a lot of the insecurities around building the thing. And one of the main issues that kept coming up was like theft. You know, we have all of our equipment down there. We've got a door that comes off. It's hot, you know, for several hours after the thing. We've been doing this for 9 years now. And not one thing has been taken. It's actually turned into like a free space that people bring ceramics. There's like one mystery potter that brings ceramics and puts them on the mantle for people to taste. So it's the opposite effect has happened, which is just nice. You know, we haven't had anything taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I thanked Howard after Duncan spoke, I'll reiterate the same thing. No, so. Thank you.
Yeah, and I worked on that when I worked on the frame when it was being put up, and I've used it a couple of times. Just as a private citizen, and it's great. It's just wonderful.
anything that the bread oven committee would like from us?
No, I appreciate Rosemary rolling over our very minimal funds every year, just because. You know, the fiscal year kind of falls right in the middle of our season and. But yeah, no, we're good. We're a well-oiled machine. We just kind of do our thing. Apply for grants when we need them, but really donations have been coming through quite strong. We've had people in Hardwick reach out to us because they're interested in making one and see what we're doing and think that they want to incorporate it into their town. I think if Hardwick sees us as something to like, that's pretty, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think that we do have our sights set on making it a little safer around the oven. There's some earthwork that needs to be done, and I'm not sure. We've only kind of dreamscaped the landscape. We haven't actually talked about what that will look like, but we're thinking either like pavers with plantings, but it's just bare earth. There's no sod growing there, and when it rains, it's super dangerous. It's very slippery. So that's like minimal, easy mitigation. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
What's the first date?
July 10th.
They used to do it on Mondays, and Mark would bring pizzas to the meetings.
Yeah.
Well, ironically, we wanted to like give people a break because Monday and Tuesday just felt like such a marathon in just like the same spot. And there's a lot of intersectionality with who's involved in both the oven and TNL. So by the end of TNL, we would all just look at each other like, hey, see you next week. It was just a lot, 2 days in a row. So we decided to change it to Thursdays, and I think it's working out. Yeah. We haven't noticed any change in numbers. Still busy everyone.
Something we talk about a lot is like, cause I'm on the bread opening committee too, but talk about like how it'd be really nice if we have like water there for like washing our hands and filling up our water jug for people. That'd be a dream to have water there someday.
We could do that now. The water that was for the ice rink has been capped, but it's undersized for the new building, so it's just gonna sit buried. But that curb stop is already, we're still paying taxes on it, it's still a town, you know, we could stretch it across. And now's the time to do it while the electric is disconnected,
Yeah.
you know, it wouldn't take much, you know, half a day with an excavator,
That'd be nice.
you know.
You'd have to run that through the village.
Well, we already own, it's beyond the curb, you have to have the village.
Yeah, that would be on the company, that would be on the town side.
Yeah, we're past the curb stop. And I had,
So. Did the hydrant get taken out?
the hydrant got taken out, I think it's still there next to the construction site and. But I had GW Tetro cap it and they sent me a picture of where it's located. So I just wasn't sure what we were gonna do. And so I just stopped it as soon as where it was, made sense to stop it at the edge of that gravel pad. So we could dig it up, right now's the time to do it, we could dig it up now and extend it over to the bread oven. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense for Tuesday night live too, you know, or maybe it's time to put a key in it and stretch it out 2 places, but while it's accessible, it's time to keep moving forward.
They probably want to put a water meter on it.
I think that's what we're paying $100 a year for.
Okay.
It's
It's a flat fee.
a flat fee and there would be a lock on it, so Tuesday night live and bread oven would have the combination along with the village and it would not be open outside of those hours is how that would go.
It'd be like a spigot we could have.
It's a frost-free hydrant,
Oh, okay.
it's like it's still portable, I mean and you can hook a hose to it if you needed it or.
Then why don't we just run them offline?
Yeah, if you guys are okay with it, I'm more than happy
I'll
to.
make the motion that we water it.
Okay.
Apparently there's a motion and a second.
And the motion in the second would be to
Run,
install a
Run water.
Run a water line. from my
process, fire hydrant,
Who?
fire hydrant.
who?
What I would do is I'd probably have Dale. Dale's there working on the library and he's got that 16,000 pound machine. Right there, and it just makes sense to have him do it, like for him to have one guy for half a day is gonna cost us less than $1,000. And I don't know if we
You
install,
heard about that,
I'm not, but I know if I hired it, I know if I hired it out. I would
don't be
expect-
too overly optimistic.
But I think if we put it in. I don't know if the goal would be to get the line over there, whether we stub it out and not do anything with it right now until we know where it's gonna go would be. My first advice, or you guys just say, let's put a frost free hydrant in now, that's really all I need to know. It's,
Well, we've got a hydrant, right?
we do, yeah, and I've installed probably 100 of them, you know, for my ag work, so it's not hard to do and it's fast.
Are you talking about is there a buried curb bell over there that you're talking about?
Already buried, it's flagged, we can walk to it right now if you want.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
But the hydrant is on the other side of the curb stop.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
on the,
Yes,
Yeah.
so I don't think that's gonna require any approval of the village.
no, it's on town property, and it's all been paid for.
I guess there's a motion,
Those way, please.
there's a motion and a second. Are we further discussing this? All
But
those,
I'd like to know, I mean, you're a little optimistic.
I'll get you two prices. Yeah. Not to exceed $3,000, that's the spending limit.
No, don't even just see what you do it for before you start throwing any numbers in.
yeah, your motion doesn't really have a dollar allotment on it.
At any expense.
I withdraw that.
The seconder is not in favor of the motion amendment.
That's right.
Does that mean we still have the original motion? Yeah,
Yeah, they're
Can we say like under 2,000?
we don't even need, we're gonna vote on the process of getting it done, and then we'll decide when we get a price on it, whether we're gonna pay it or not.
Okay,
That's the way I would look at it. We're basically approving this in theory.
okay.
okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Alright.
Although-
Confused as to.
I am
whether
too.
to approve any-
I am too, but the three said yes.
Just approving the job, we're gonna get the price.
Okay, what next? What else you want?
There's your water.
Thanks.
Jasmine, you could shoot for the moon right now.
To rip
Don't,
into Brian's face when I get
Did he say it would never happen?
What's that?
Did Brian say it would never happen?
No, I just, him in the history of water on the field. It's a sore subject.
yeah, I imagine. Anything further for Jasmine? Are we moving on? Jasmine, do you have anything further for us?
No? Thank you.
I think the only thing was a hope for a better trash and recycling, but
Oh,
maybe.
yeah, thanks, Adrian, you're just carrying this for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trash and recycling, the recycling bin is like, it's just a cute little thing, but people bring seltzers and like cans and drinks and it's overflowing and looks gross at the end of the night. And half the time it's already full by the time you get there. So I don't know. That's just an observation. And the garbage itself is sometimes full too. Yeah, it's just. And it's kind of in an awkward spot, to be perfectly honest.
I know the rec coordinator reached out to a local contractor. To give pricing on. Trash can, we needed pricing for covers at the skate park, but we also needed. Prices for those similar to what matches the trailhead, because it would both clean, neat, and. Aesthetically,
Yeah.
I'll follow up with him, or you might think same.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, that was actually Isabel Sullivan, our rec coordinator, that was something she wanted to tackle. So the
Yeah.
other trash can in the Oakville Park that has a similar problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, would moving it closer to the oven be an issue? Okay,
Who takes care of it now?
Legion Field is the village does that trash can.
And the recycling to it.
Yeah. Probably worth following up with me on moving it, but
with the village?
yeah, they maintain it
Oh,
very clear.
it's so. Oh, yeah. This dance, it's so fun.
Did they basically screw a plastic recycling bin to a phone pole? Was that?
I think it's steel, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
But then, okay, so rec wants to do this, but it would be contracted through the town, even though the village manages the trash mitigation.
I think once we had rough estimates, we were gonna explore. Like sprucing up, trash has been an ongoing
Okay,
thing, right?
okay,
And so, once we had an estimate, then run it by both the town and the village individuals who manage trash for them.
got it,
And say, hey, would this work? We like this idea. Step one was getting prices to see if it was feasible or not.
okay,
And that was, but it fell the wayside and so.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anything further?
Trash is almost as bad as dogs.
Sure.
It's not, I'm not laughing at you, Jasmine. I use this expression a lot. We're half pregnant with the village,
Half pregnant?
half pregnant. So you're talking about needing to go to the town for the village to do this, do that. It's everything.
It's the whole thing that doesn't.
It's half pregnant or half married.
Really hung up on this metaphor.
Yeah.
Half pregnant,
You'll
so is there like hope for a beautiful birth at the end, or are you?
join the select board, you'll get it.
So, like, yeah, we don't need to excavate this anymore. I just wanna know.
Really ugly twins.
Okay, now I'm following.
How they sign this?
We might have a fun meeting tonight.
No.
There's still time. Thank you, Jasmine.
Yeah,
I
thank
don't
you.
think there's anything left.
Thanks,
Adrian's gotta take the floor and get us back on track.
thanks for coming down.
And then you're up after that, Rosemary. On deck.
Okay,
Adrian has a presentation for committee restructuring next steps.
Tom, can you bring up the presentation? So we met, was that 2 or 3 weeks ago that we met for the commission task force?
Excuse me, do we have extra copies of these?
Yeah.
The name? That's not out, but.
Yeah.
Oh, I just give them mine.
I didn't
pass it
pass it
out. It's good.
You have it right here.
Yeah, how many do you have? It's yours.
No, I don't need mine.
The next one.
I'll come back one.
It's only part of it. Sure. Yeah,
These are the,
no, these are just like the small seconds.
The big one's the same.
Yeah, it's gonna be on the screen, it's on.
yeah, the big ones are, the areas with like small text, well, not bigger.
Okay.
So we're gonna go on the screen too.
Look, the audience would like to walk, they can just, you wanna rearrange it.
But it's nice to have it in the meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's just not the full thing.
I have a technical question before you get started.
Yeah.
What is a Frankenstein?
A Frankenstein, when you like take different things together and make one Frankenstein.
It's like the real Frank.
I kind of figured out this what it was.
Different parts melded together.
Yeah,
It's alive, it's alive.
You wanna take this away?
yeah. So we met 2 to 3 weeks ago. I reached out to all of the commissions and all the reimagined task forces. You can go to the next slide. So we had good number, we had like, I didn't count, but I think like over 30, maybe more attendees. I also put out a call on Front Porch Forum for any residents that were interested, I tried to reach out to previous chairs and vice chairs just to make sure I got like a good data like set for this. So when everyone came in, you can go to the next one. When everyone came in, I had already like gathered all of the tasks and responsibilities from the committees and commissions by the chairs and reaching out to me and us like working together to write those all out. So when everyone came in, they kind of double checked my list of tasks and responsibilities and my list of projects to make sure that everything was correct and that some of them like added a couple things or took away a couple things. So our main goals of this were to collaboratively work together to restructure the committees and commissions. And also the second task was to prioritize all projects from current committees and commissions that they want to get like funding for. So ahead. So first, like I said, when everyone came in, I had them write on Post-its. We wrote out all of the projects on Post-its, and we wrote out all of the tasks and responsibilities on Post-its. For the tasks and responsibilities for each committee, I had them write it twice so that we could break out into groups and look at those like separate, but like through the same kind of lens, but like come up with different results. So once they did that, we then shuffled all of the projects and we shuffled all of the tasks and responsibilities of all the committees. So we were looking from like a blank slate. And then after that, we created new buckets for the projects. And then we created new labels for each bucket. And then for the projects, they decided to make an affinity map for all the projects. Go to the next slide. So like I said, the first step, we looked at the current state, all of the committees and commissions now, like what they're doing for like all of their tasks. So that would be the, I don't have that on here, but that's the next slide. So yeah, so right now we have 14 town and committee groups. So these are all like Post-its, like how we had it on this back wall back here. We had Post-its for under beautification committee, we had like all our task responsibilities, under the rail trail, we had them all out there. And then we split into groups. Yeah, so these are the other ones. These are skate park, reimagine Johnson. So just kind of like highlighting how wide our net is right now, like how thin we're spread out. And these were all of the projects combined from all the committees that we had on a separate board. So I had everyone break into 3 groups. The first and second group, they worked on restructuring our committees and commissions. So they weren't in those buckets anymore. They were just looking at the tasks and responsibilities blank without any structure to it. So they looked at those and they started to make bigger groupings and buckets of those things. And then the group, go back. The group 3, they started thinking about how to prioritize all of the projects. So I didn't give much structure on how they could do this, but prioritizing the projects. But they decided to do an affinity map. So I thought that was a really great idea that they did that. So an affinity map is when you have 4 different quadrants, one of them being high impact, low effort, one of them being high impact, high effort, and then another low impact, low effort, and the final one being low impact, high effort. So your ideal for a project is that it's going to be a really high impact and not much effort involved. Not an ideal project would be low impact with high effort. Yeah, you can, huh?
On the back of the board.
Oh yeah, you can turn it if you want.
So actually, that board's idea, so you have like high impact, low effort versus low impact, low effort. And then low impact, high effort, so this is like bad projects, right? And these were the best projects, right, like huge, like big payback, short investment. And then high impact, high effort, these are kind of like reaching for the stars, like, we really need this. We're committed, we're gonna do it as a group, or we shouldn't do it at all, we're either all in or we're not at all.
Thanks.
So this affinity chart was not actually broken out by committee, it was just kind of
You
community.
look at the color of the post-its is.
The color of the post-its are like green is best. And purple is second best and.
Yeah, but it's not, those efforts aren't directed at a specific committee
No, these are,
on this,
All
on
of
this
the-
sheet.
these are all the committees.
Yeah.
Combined, yeah, all these projects.
That infinity chart was organic too, that's what put that up, like mid-flow, and it was one of the coolest moments. I feel like this is like a epiphany of ideas of everyone was kind of overwhelmed staring at the board.
Yeah,
She drew the 2 lines and it was like, boom, like target focus, it was like awesome.
Right.
It was really, she really like. Made this whole process like fall into place, it was really cool to watch.
yeah. So that was, so the round one was having each group do their thing. And then the second round was having the groups shift. So I timed them for like 15 minutes the first round and they all did work. And then I had them switch groups and work on and build upon the previous group's work. And then when we got to the third round, when I had them switch again, that's when they just did some finishing touches on the projects. And then they did some labeling and final recommendations for the committees and commissions. So here are the results. So group 1 and group 2 both had recommendations. So the first, this is just a picture of like what was on the wall. And then the second slide is I digitized it to be able to read a little bit better. So recommendation 1, they recommended a Chamber of Commerce. The pink ones are all like the larger committees. So a Chamber of Commerce, Natural Resources Committee, Planning Commission, Recreation Board, Library Board, and Culture and Arts Committee. And then other committees like fall under those if you want to read those. And then recommendation 2 was a recreation board, a conservation commission, planning commission, historical society, and a library board. And same for those that have like some subcommittees underneath them. And then I just kind of took ideas from both of those recommendations to make kind of a Frankenstein version.
And tell me again. What the difference between recommendation 1 and recommendation 2 is?
So recommendation 1 was groups 1's work, who was working on it. Recommendation 2 is group 2 that was working.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and after we worked in each section, we presented the results at the end and we talked about what we came to through the whole process. Yeah. But so the Frankenstein recommendation, I have Chamber of Commerce with Conservation Commission with Tree and Arboretum Subcommittee. Then I have Planning Commission. And then I have a Recreation Board. And the Recreation Board would have an Economic Growth Subcommittee, Youth and Adult Team Sports Subcommittee, and then a Green Spaces Subcommittee. And then I was thinking that like the Green Spaces Subcommittee could form a task force with people on the Planning Commission to create a buyout properties planning task force. And then I have the Library Board of Trustees, the Culture and Arts Subcommittee, and then under the Culture and Arts Committee, an Events Committee, Public Art Subcommittee, and a Food Access Subcommittee. And then I have the Historical Society. So the two things I'm not sure about on my recommendation is if the food access subcommittee is big enough for it to just be its own committee. Or if the green spaces subcommittee should actually be under the conservation commission instead of the recreation board. I think it makes sense under both because recreation board would use the green spaces for setting up recreation, but it also makes sense for conservation commission to have the green spaces subcommittee because they can do things environmentally friendly and kind of know the lay of the land as well. And below my recommendation, I have where all the previous committees would fall under the new committees. Do you want to take any questions for that section first?
What's the overall goal for us tonight?
I guess just to digest and see if we want to move forward with one of these recommendations for committees. For us to, I don't know if we want to just decide on that, if we want to have a special meeting or special town meeting for people to vote on.
The goal is to reduce the amount of volunteer need, but then focus the direction of those volunteers who are present, right?
No, I get
Oh,
that.
sorry.
I'm wondering about. We have several recommendations in front of us tonight. Is the expectation we're gonna vote to move ahead with one of these, or is this kind of an informational session that we're gonna have additional
Just tonight,
info?
Just,
yeah, what's our goal for tonight?
Yes,
Yeah,
I guess I was just thinking more informational, but
Digest it.
yeah.
Okay.
Cause you might leave this saying, this doesn't actually make sense, let's, like, I want your guys' input too. on
and how
what
should we
makes sense.
best, do we try and do that in the meeting tonight, or do we try and get back to you with our suggestions, comments on the drafts that you've circulated?
Mm,
What's the best way to get that
It's
feedback?
up to you. I think getting back to you
Yeah. that's fine.
individually would be reasonable.
Mhm. Yeah,
We do have a very packed meeting
That's
ahead of this as well. I'm
That's
not
part of
gonna
the
sell
reason
for
I'm
sure.
asking the question.
mhm.
question, well, first comment, then a question, it was a fantastic event. It was, I just kind of hung back and watched, and it was great to see all the energy in the room and the investment. My question is, and I had to leave before the very end,
Mhm.
so I don't know if this happened.
Mhm.
But has there been, or can there be an opportunity for like the same participants to come back together and be introduced to Frankenstein and raise their questions, get their comments about
Yeah,
where things, gee, I don't know if that really fits there, or what if we move this over here, you know, that kind of thing.
sure.
That did that happen that night?
No, I didn't, I made this like after the fact.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It seems like getting board input on your Frankenstein, and then you kind of, if you're willing, taking the five of you together to come up with something, and then going back out to the public.
Mhm,
Like, I think having your insight, you know, now that it's been structured a little bit,
right.
those are the parameters, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah, Doug.
I'm wondering there, at the last meeting that I attended, there was talk about having you're gonna look at effectiveness and efficiency and bringing in somebody to study. I look at this and I don't understand that you have the top layer, and if a committee, and if one of the yellow committees, how are they? You know, are they separate members, or are they, you know, is it a 2 or 3 layers, so you go through the first layer, and then you go up to the second layer, and then you have the third layer of the select board? Are
Yeah,
they separate members, you know?
well, all these committees and boards would report to the select board like they do now. And then all of the subcommittees of the committees would report to the committee above them.
Yellow is the subcommittee.
So depending on like what the larger committee would want, like recreation board, for instance, they could decide to only meet like every 4 months as the whole group. But the youth and adult team sports subcommittee, they would just meet maybe in the summer months. And then the economic growth subcommittee, they might want to meet every single month. So they might set up their own parameters. But the recreation board as a whole would probably meet like every month. And then they would like report to us with their budget and like requests.
It seems to me that what this is even slower and less effective than what we have now. We have right now, what we have is our people, where committee doesn't know what another committee, especially when you have Reimagine Johnson, which are not, town committee. I think this is actually backwards, and I really think that this needs to be studied. Because I think that where the problem is at the top end with the select board and the administrative supervision. And the planning commission is a conceptual planning. We have no economic development program. We're missing where this will cause people to say, we're not getting anywhere. Why would I want to be on this committee when this is happening this way? I think what you need is more administration, you need more effectiveness. You need your community and economic development specialists working, develop a vision of the future and create strategic plans and work with the committees. I don't think you need a second layer involving 64 people, doing this. It's going to be, you're going to lose your volunteers.
It seems that it might end up being bottleneck, because if I'm in a subcommittee, I have to report to a committee. You're cutting off access possibly to the select.
Well, you are still part of that committee.
So could they come directly before the select board?
Yeah, you're still part of that committee. You're just a subcommittee of that committee.
So imagine you're the Culture and Arts Committee and like you're the T&L branch. And so you guys can meet freely to come up with an idea, but your idea has not been presented in open meeting yet. So then you take this idea to the Warren Culture and Art Committee and say, guys, this is what we want to do. Here's why. Here's the backstory of it. So it's presented at an open meeting. And so it allows the flexibility between Warren meetings to like get the work done, and then you present it as a final product to be approved by the Culture and Arts Committee, or you're going directly to the select board with the Culture and Arts Committee and say, hey, just go right to the board. We're not going to meet again here.
Well,
It actually suits
Subcommittees have
I
a
see that as a model.
only if you have a phone.
Only if you have a quorum of the board. Just
Yeah.
this is conversation piece, and we don't have hours to spend on this one topic. But the Historic Society already follows this model.
They do.
Yeah, if you read like a Historic Society board meeting, they'll call the meeting to order and they'll have a buildings and grounds subcommittee. Give a report. That is a couple members of the Historic Society, correct me if I'm wrong. They are not a quorum of the Historic Society board. They can meet, study things, make recommendations.
There are, in the structure of the Historical Society,
I-
there is a subcommittee structure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's literally just committee, subcommittee.
Well,
And it's already being done in Johnson.
The Rail Trail Committee does this already with their subcommittee. We just don't have somebody, and you don't have a meeting and do things. You have 5 meetings or 6 or 7, and then you go up. And the idea of educating other people and bringing them in is going to be very discouraging.
Educating who?
Pardon?
Educating who? People on your committee, they can just join your subcommittee if they want to know things.
Yeah, it's really about building trust. I mean, like the committee as a whole assigns who the subcommittee is. If you're on the committee and you don't trust your subcommittee, well, then you better join the subcommittee. Yeah, I mean, it's really like, it's all about, so you're gonna trust the recommendation of the subcommittee, or else you wouldn't, you would be on it yourself.
Well, real life enters and people are, may not have trust, but they may not go. Things, I don't see this as being anything but a bottleneck.
Lois had a comment, but Duncan was also trying to talk, just making sure you're not forgotten. Saw you. Duncan can say his piece, I just want to make sure.
I was just gonna say the Rail Trail Committee might be the exception to the rule in a lot of these cases because the rail trail committee was established under an actual proviso of the select board with a specific task set and goals, and I think it's intended, if the rail trail committee does its work well, it's gonna work itself out of a job. There will not be
It's a
the
limited.
need for a rail trail committee.
Well, they should be
That's a-
created as a task force instead of a committee.
All right, we're going down a rabbit hole
Are
here.
we gonna bring them, the Chamber of Commerce's are not, so it's about.
Right.
Out of state.
They're county governance, right? They're set up by the county,
They're even, no, not even counting, they're total.
just nonprofits.
The membership organization.
Lois, what did you have?
Well, I just wanted to say that, you know, this is all well and good for anybody who was there. But all of the committee members, nobody else knows about this. And it's not going to make very much sense. If there's not some kind of presentation that gets at what we're after, or this gets shared with all of the committees. Whether it's, you know, one committee at a time or whatever. Need to have the framework for what's going on. And I
Sure.
haven't seen that at all. We didn't have an opening session. And this just this piece of paper, I don't believe is going to be very effective.
This is very much in its infancy, I think, Adrian just presented this for the first time to anybody. And I think the goal was to get select board feedback, if the select board says, I don't think this is a good idea, she's probably not gonna go any further, there's not gonna be a second meeting. But if there's like, well, let's tweak this, tweak that, well, then maybe you can it'll come about, right? But very, 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 very beginnings of. What are the needs of Johnson and what are the committees to make sure those needs are met?
Yeah, and again, the goal was, we have 14 groups. That's wild, like 14 committees, commissions, task forces. And we have reimagined task forces that are just kind of disappearing because I don't know why, but maybe adding more structure and places for them to go would be nice. And there's some people that are on 3-4 committees that are kind of similar. Maybe they wouldn't get burnt out as much if it was just recreation or just conservation commission. Yeah.
I would just say real quickly, it was, as Peter said, a really nice evening. There's a lot of good conversation, a lot of room. A lot of ideas, a lot of energy. This may not be the ideal solution to all that. But if the idea behind tonight was to present it, get the conversation going, that's been accomplished. The conversation both in favor and some concerns. So good, let's get it out, let's have another conversation and then either adopt some form of it or try it. What it's sort of we're talking about.
I'll put. Are we ready to get Adrian some recommendations, thoughts, and move on to our via email? For our next meeting and move on to our next subject?
So not in person tonight, in.
Well, we gotta give some feedback and talk about it more.
But not at this meeting,
Not right now.
got it, yeah.
Okay, you want
You're clear as mud.
the next meeting?
Next planning meeting.
Okay.
Yes,
Sure.
And in the meantime, share some feedback, right?
yes.
So as a general suggestion. I know the board can't take action out of the context of a public meeting. But I would love to see if people are giving feedback, I'd love to see what everybody's feedback is and just caveat it with information only. Please don't reply to all, but I'd love to see what other people are thinking as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So
If it's in one email thread, and if anyone from the public has interest in it, it's really easy to fill that FOIA request too. And maybe even print it out for the next meeting and just have all those thoughts together. It makes it really clean and easy, but I do think it's important for everybody to see everybody else's.
I think it's real valuable, yeah.
yeah, that's. Yeah.
Okay.
My comment.
So get select board feedback and then after that meeting, invite the public to another meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
Committees specifically.
yeah,
Rosemary, the floor is yours.
Okay, I have
Thank you.
one liquor license. For first. Third and outside consumption for Red Rock LLC, which is from
Entertain a motion from the board to approve the liquor license.
Second.
Okay, there was 2 moves in 2 seconds. I'm gonna give the movement to Peter and the second to Duncan. We're leaving Mike right out of it.
Oh, good.
Alright, further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Rosemary?
and the attorney that's going to do the tax sale for Johnson would like the following motion. To approve SP and F attorneys BC to conduct for town's tax sale process.
Commenced in 2025.
That one goes to Mike.
So. Can you read the motion out loud?
I will read the motion. I move to have Stissel, Page and Fletcher attorneys, PC, to conduct the town's tax sale process commenced in 2025.
What's the cost?
They're covered by the tax sale.
Not total, no.
Oh, if it doesn't go through the sale, doesn't.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Not till I know how much.
You're not the only person that can second it.
Second.
Will depend on how many crosswalks.
Peter's,
But what's his rate? Whatever.
Well, you can only charge tax person. You charge.
Okay.
Anything else above that.
Donna, Peter
That's-
seconded.
that's-
We're in further discussion.
Yeah.
It's just too bad that it just wasn't included in the motion, that's all.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
And the ayes have it. Anything else, Rosemary?
I will send out a budget status before all these bills are paid. So you follow that right
We're
there.
getting close to the end of the year. We're gonna have some money left over.
That's-
We better.
It paid 2 payments. $150,000. Last week I submitted $280,000. We should get that.
So even if you do a year-end report, those items will show up as due to the town. That's receivables. Okay.
Further questions for Rosemary?
I have one. And you don't have to answer this, but maybe just be thinking about, as we think about trying to transition from the process of the budget process that we're currently using, where we're estimating the year-end surplus. Do you think that there is any way that an RFP with an auditor could be structured so that we had year-end financial data in time for building a budget in the current year?
By December?
Yeah. So yeah, you don't have to answer the question right now, but if not, I'm hoping you and Tom can get together and figure out how do we make that transition year
Yeah,
work.
I mean, immediately there's 2 options, right? One is the audited year-end surplus, 2 is we swallow it. This is the year with having. Not having.
Yeah, I don't need the plan right now, but
Yeah,
just if you guys can think about that and be prepared to talk to us about how we do that.
Yeah.
Hopefully prior to budget time would be useful.
Okay. Duncan, CEDS interim contract.
Yeah, so I think, did you get a chance to print out the various?
oh, yeah,
proposals?
it's stapled next. This,
Okay, I'm gonna hand out, I think I've got enough. I'm gonna hand out a spreadsheet. Can you pass that around? Take one and pass it around, Mike.
unnoticed stuff.
So I was pleasantly surprised. We got 3 specific proposals. 2 of those proposals are for the prospective person to be considered a temporary part-time employee of the town with no benefits. And obviously, oddly enough, the two rates that we received were both at $60 an hour. Under that proposal. The third proposal we got was at a contract rate. In other words, we would not do any withholding. It would be a straight contract rate, and that one is $70 per hour. So the spreadsheet I just handed out kind of gives you some ideas about what, what those cost comparisons would look like. On the bottom of the spreadsheet, beginning on line 25, I plugged in $60 an hour. And if we use $60 an hour and considered the fact that if they were employees of the town, we would be paying 7.65% on FICA. I use 2% for workers' comp and unemployment. So that would basically allow us up to roughly 20 hours of service at the rate of $60 an hour with an effective hourly rate of $66.05. Now, if we went with the proposal of a straight contract of $70 per hour, that would be $70 per hour. We would be able to afford a few less hours out of the project, but they would be covering, their own insurance, paying their own FICA, doing their own withholding, etc. So all three of these proposals, I think, are really good proposals. They're really good people. And I think any of the three would be very capable of performing the work. Carrie Johnson is one of the ones that is the $60 an hour proposal. She's indicated a start date in mid-July. Carl Rogers is the other $60 an hour as a town employee. We used Carl before as the temporary interim before hiring Tom. So he's a known entity. He could start ASAP. And Ron Rudensky is the contract proposal at $70 an hour. He could also start ASAP. So I don't really have any recommendations for any of them. They're all three excellent, candidates and proposals. So I guess it's really a pleasure of the board.
Did they say how long they could be on board?
Ron and all of them basically said, and all of them were basically aware of the fact that we may be involved in a longer term process that could mean, longer need for services. Ron in his proposal has a figure not to exceed of $5,000. We'd probably hit that fairly soon and have to renegotiate, some sort of a contract with him. Carl is open-ended. Carrie was open-ended in terms of, it takes as long as it takes.
Okay.
And Ron basically was too. He put in a not to exceed figure of 5,000 in his proposal, but in his proposal, he says, I recognize that, this is going to take as long as it takes.
Okay.
I guess I take the duration a little different about renegotiating. He talks about that he's gonna do what is needed by the select board, and the cost he's not gonna charge more than $5,000. That's what it looks like to me.
But he's charging by the hour. It's
true, but he's gonna do, let's say that we have something for him to do and he agrees to do it. He's not gonna charge us more than 5,000. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, he could charge $100 now, but if he says he's not gonna charge us more than 5,000, that looks like a deal to me.
If it's really intended to be that,
Well, read it.
Yeah, I read it several times.
Well, it looks to me like he's gonna do it for 5,000.
There's something very attractive to me about having somebody in person Um. And I know Ron's really good at what he does, but, I'd rather have somebody who was nearby, personally.
Yeah, Ron is living in Florida. He made that fairly clear. Carrie lives in St. Albans, Carl lives in Barry.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that all of them would have a very limited presence in the office per se. You know.
Yep.
I think the expectation is that they would be doing most of their work remotely.
Yeah.
You know, again, we can change that up when we hire a person to fill that role. But this is just interim.
Yeah. Yeah,
The main project that we want him or her to square away is all of the industrial park stuff that's fallen by the wayside, right?
Well, I wouldn't describe it as falling by the wayside, but
It has, it's fallen by the wayside.
well, you and I can disagree on
Yeah,
that, but there are also other grants that are out there that should be managed and taken care of.
Well, if he's,
It's the list we looked at.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So the thing is that, but the main thing is that we're trying to get the industrial park back on track. You agree to that?
The industrial park is gonna have a lot of needs coming up.
Well, that's what we're gonna agree to for him to do, and he says he's not gonna charge more than $5,000.
If you wanna make the motion. I was
Really
hoping,
just to say $5,000 and I stop working, so you go get something new.
You wanna read it?
All three of them.
either party may terminate this contract by notifying the other no less than 30 days prior to date of termination. This has already got a clause in there. He can terminate.
All three of them are excellent, right? Carl's attention to detail and ability to read and interpret documents is like supersedes anybody. He's amazing. But his technological skills are not the greatest. But he's amazing at what he does, right? Ron is really great. He's doing a great job at LCPC and he's very familiar with the town of Johnson and its projects. Carol did an awesome job at Morristown. She really did. She got them back on track. And I think personally, I think if Carl's gonna be in the office and present, there's no one better. But if he's remotely, I'd be a little concerned about some of the tech skills that might be required, and I would shoot for Ron or for Carol, just for that reason. alone.
Her name's Carrie.
Carrie, sorry. Hey,
What's the board wanna do?
I'm in favor of Carrie.
Even if it's a
Can't start for a month.
3-week flag?
Do we have anything in between that's really urgent?
The thing that we've got right now is, which was submitted this afternoon, was what we hope will be a final draft of the National Environmental Protection Act affected area report, which under the NBRC grant, we have a limited notice to proceed as of right now to get us to that point. If the EA is approved, then that will allow us to proceed with other activities than the grant. So I don't know how soon that's gonna happen. Yeah, if it happens like right away or soon, my take on it would be get on it and, start the Act 250 filing application, etc. So personally, I'd rather have somebody on board that can start now.
Okay.
When did Carrie say she could start?
Sure, she kind of indicated mid-July.
Mid-July.
She is currently serving as an interim town administrator in Highgate. Highgate has hired a person. she is, what do they call it these days, onboarding with that individual.
Right.
And she didn't indicate, I mean, to me, that would take more than a week, but, she indicated that she isn't really available until mid-July. Personally, I like Carl, I think, I take your point about technical expertise, I think Carl is certainly capable of participating in a Zoom meeting. And, getting done what needs to get done, that doesn't concern me personally a whole lot, but.
I'm fine with Carl.
I would take Ron if he meant what he said.
We can go with Ron.
I mean, shall commence on the date approved and shall expire at the conclusion of needed services as determined by the select board. And then it says the cost shall not exceed.
But it
$5,000.
also says either party may terminate.
Yes, 30 days.
Upon
If he
30
had
days notice.
does his job, he can have it done within 30 days.
I don't think we're gonna have a new person hired within 30 days.
Who did you want, Peter?
Prior to the date of termination. That has nothing to do with it. Higher than his other.
Make a motion, Mike.
Make a motion to go with Ron.
It's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I'll second it. Did you get that, Donna?
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Swing vote?
The problem I have is I don't think I think it's ambiguous. I think if our expectation is we're gonna get this done for 5,000, I think we're nuts.
The motion was just to hire Ron. That's, I don't think we'll get it done for $5,000. I seconded a motion to go with Ron. I know Mike's.
We'd like to get it done for
I know,
5,000.
I know Mike's perception, but that wasn't in the motion. So are you an aye or a nay? You can vote present if you want. Or you can abstain.
Well, you already did the ayes, right? And I didn't.
Yep, I guess the motion dies. Can't make a decision. Motion failed,
So how should I record Duncan voting?
present.
Okay.
He didn't say a thing.
No.
You can't speak for him.
He said, I missed the ayes.
Oh,
Anybody want to form another motion here? Want to go for Carl? Eric? Anybody?
I move we go with Carl.
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
All right. Did you say aye, Peter?
I did.
You were awful quiet over there.
I said aye.
Said I accept Adrian?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are you?
Thank you.
I mean, there's proposals. But we have to do to hire interim employees. Is that on Rosemary's plate?
Maybe it was that phone, so not so much.
Don't do much for Carl? Okay.
I think I even have a draft offer of employment or letter of engagement. From before, I could massage that really easily. Could we authorize the board chair to sign a letter of engagement based on the terms outlined in his email?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Was to authorize the chair to sign the letter engagement.
Oh, okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, you guys have it.
So I think it's safe for me to let him know that we accepted his proposal. A letter of
Neil,
engagement will be forthcoming.
and we'll get together tomorrow on that. Yes.
Thanks, Duncan.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great job.
I'm really delighted.
Thank you
that
very
we've got-
much.
Like I said, any of these three,
That was 1 week, that's amazing.
yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul.
We only got another 2.5 hours left. You sure you wanna go? RFP for an employee consultant. I believe we've all seen Adrian's set of deliverables, and we've seen Duncan's set of deliverables, and Peter texted me his, which I'm realizing I did not send to the board.
I sent you it.
You did? Yep.
I printed out copies of mine. I don't know if other people want to see them or not, but.
Right.
Peter was looking for effectiveness and efficiency of town government, effectiveness and efficiency of paid staff in their individual roles, effectiveness and efficiency of paid staff as a unit, and evaluating all the above with recognition that the town does not exist in isolation, has to operate within the town village relationship.
There was another word in there,
Yeah,
but anyway, yeah. You didn't mention my other list.
Peter also sent me a list that said, do you really want me to read this?
No,
All right.
I'm just very amused by the word deliverables.
Deliverables,
I
a set of deliverables.
very, amused and was in a grocery shopping mode, so I sent a grocery list.
I think the context is slightly different, but like, I get your point.
All things considered, I really liked Adrian's, but I don't know if we can actually afford something to that depth, so I would be more interested in an RFP. Heavily.
No, Adrian was.
Heavily centered around, I see that paper. Duncan's email, which I'm gonna read for the public. Survey of existing staffing levels, including positions, their duties, numbers of hours worked, and compensation. Survey should also include cost of services provided by non-staff such as law enforcement, fire protection, EMS, mowing and cemetery maintenance, and others identified in the budget. Comparison of staffing and compensation with comparable sized towns. Comparable sized towns would initially be based on population, but also need to factor in a number of miles of road, per capita income tax rate, grand list, and non-staff services provided. A comparison and ranking of relative tax burden, comparable towns to Johnson as per the above criteria. Other measures of tax burden could be considered. A statement as to the adequacy, efficiency of the current level of staffing, recommendations for changes to increase efficiency and effectiveness of staffing and or services provided, an evaluation estimate of what impact recommended changes might have on tax burden or impact. The reason I side with this more than yours, Peter, is because to me, this gets us to comparable with other towns. And it does talk about effectiveness and efficiency. But to me, like that could all just be broken down into comparables and then town tax burden level and voter approval and everything else kind of factors in there oddly. Adrian, you had a long write-up, so I don't know if I can read that.
I think what could be included on this is suggested format of how we want to receive this.
Do all board members agree with these as deliverables, but we would need to work on a format
Yeah, all of
them.
that's like in mine, I just have like other stuff.
a lot more.
Yeah. Just more detailed on what to expect. Mhm.
So I'm not sure covered there, but I am very interested in looking at our paid staff as a unit and how they function. As a unit. So,
On what metric?
I don't have a metric in mind, but just, do they function well as a unit? And if not,
That's,
how might they?
that's kind of, mine says like workflows in each department. And then it also says like resource mapping, so showing the time, money, staff, space, equipment for each department as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking more relationship wise,
Yeah, that's like workflows. I'd say.
workflows, if you want to call it that, yeah.
Like-
It all sounds very metric to me,
Like Tom
but
sends Lydia the
Yeah.
agenda to our
Or-
website, like.
Jason does a weekly meeting with Tom to then relay to Rosemary. Or
One of the things I think that's gonna be, I agree with, I'd like to know that too, but one of the issues or problems I see with that is the interconnectedness that we have with the village and the staff and the office all being, it's pretty easy with the highway department. Highway department's highway department. But the downstairs staff has a lot of interrelatedness in terms of what they do and how they do it.
Yeah.
With the village.
So you
And
don't
that's-
wanna know about that?
What's that?
So you don't wanna know about that?
It's not that I don't wanna know about it, it's that what. We can ask for a survey to study that. But without any kind of buy-in from the village trustees, it's almost pointless. Because we're gonna get, we're gonna get 50% of the picture.
when we talk about merger or divorce, right now, we are as close to merger without being merged. We share property, we share employees, we share IT services, we share physical hardware of computers and servers. We share just about everything you can possibly share without being merged. But the fascinating thing is it's oftentimes like used against all the other board to control the situation where it's like, well, we're not gonna do that with you, but yet we're still connected. And so I think it's really important to understand how much the town, and to only look at the town, and whether that there's 2 people downstairs. Yes, there's 4 people, but there's 2 full-time equivalents. And can those 2 full-time equivalents do the job descriptions as provided by this board to do what we say they can do? And I think you're right. Duncan's also right that we're not the village, so we shouldn't look at the village. And so we should just look at it as like 2 full-time equivalents, and like, this is the work that we say those 2 people should do. Can they do it, and how do they do it best within the other only town employees?
But correct me if I'm wrong, Rosemary, but none of the full-time equivalent job descriptions are strictly town or strictly village.
I mean, the cleanest thing to do would just be have only town employees and only village employees.
And that may be an ultimate recommendation, but. I guess the nuance that I'm trying to get at is. We have a town in a village governance, and we have employees that are currently doing tasks
On both sides.
on both sides of the ledger. And it's gonna be, that's why in my preamble, I said it's important to recognize that there's, governance issues between the town and village. In an ideal world, the village would partner with us on a study like this. So we could look at the overall efficiencies of town village governance. my sense is there's some inefficiencies and some costs.
Enormous.
And some tax burdens
Yeah.
built into that. But, you know, I think it became pretty obvious at our last town meeting that there wasn't a lot of interest on the part of the village to look at those things.
Well, if we pay for it, they have interest in it, you think?
I think their interest is in staying sovereign.
I can't speak for them, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
I'm probably still not saying this well. In terms of the work everybody is doing on behalf of the town. I'm not just thinking of two full-time equivalent people or positions. Everybody works for the town. How well do they work together on our behalf? And are there ways in which they could work together better on our behalf? Just in their work for the town. So I'm thinking economic development, town administrator, folks in the office downstairs, the highway department. How are we doing working together?
Would we by necessity need to define what the town does versus what the village does? In order to make sure that when we're talking about town employees that, you know, I guess I guess I'm thinking that some of that overlap between one individual performing multiple functions, you know, town village functions. Do we try and somehow separate those functions as town on this side and village on this side, regardless of the individual involved?
I think you have to think, like statute defines what a town clerk should do, right? And statute defines what a treasurer should do, and then the select board fills in the rest. And I think if you had all the lists of what to do, and then you could have a consultant say, well, that should be done by 1.5 people, or it should be done by 2.5 people. But when you look at it as the individual of, say, just employee X, I think it's gonna get really muddy. Say,
Well, there's two components. One is existing staffing levels. So you sort of, at least in my mind, I'm
Yeah,
thinking, what are the existing staffing levels? Maybe that gets to the question of, are they doing what we want them to do, or what needs to be done in the most effective, efficient manner? And then the second part of that is maybe there's a different way to do it. Maybe there's a different assignment of tasks and duties. Maybe it requires another person. I don't know. I don't know what those things are. Just that I'm thinking there's kind of two different pieces. One is looking at existing, and the next is looking at what makes the most sense, what they might recommend to be the most efficient and effective.
I think for municipal workers, we have to look at the village and the town together. I mean, right now we share a town clerk and a town treasurer. If we even wanted to think about separating that out, we need to know if that would work and what the hurdles would be.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Rosemary, but there's very distinct lines between what the village treasurer does for the village and what the town treasurer does for the town. I mean, those lines are already out there. Same with the clerk position, really. Town clerk position, as you say, is defined by statute.
yeah, I mean, after being in that role myself and then observing downstairs. I think the number of employees for the town feels good, but it's the overlap that I think creates inefficiencies. And I can say that in a less polite way if you'd like. But it's, I think there's a lot of confusion and gray area. Because of that overlap, and makes it really difficult. As a town only employee. Sometimes to navigate that. If I was a shared employee, it might be a little easier, but I have no allegiance to the village, my allegiance is to you. And so I have to always think in the best interests of the town, and it makes it nearly impossible at times to work with somebody. Who has two supervisors. And I think that needs to be somehow studied as well.
I feel like we're spinning our wheels a little bit. But nobody's heavily disagreeing. If we can agree on a set of deliverables, we can form an RFP and talk about the RFP before we post it. I think tonight, if I'm polling the board for the most part, you heavily agree with Duncan's. A lot of your stuff was already in here.
Yeah.
Mike, you agree with Duncan's? I lean towards Duncan's because I think it gives us better metric optics.
Mhm.
One of the things I really liked about Patrons was, which is clearly not in mine, is I like the idea of the executive summary. And that's, that's a format thing, but I think that's a really good tool.
And you,
And
I mean,
I'm good with what Duncan did. I'm only trying to get at, a non-statistical, non-dollar,
Non-metric.
non-metric thing of, employee A does this, employee B does this. Sometimes they have to work together. How does that go?
okay,
But I'm not, but I am like going around in circles. So I'll go with Duncan's as the basis for an RFP.
okay.
How's that work?
And who is gonna form the RFP? I think what 2 board members should work on it. I'll volunteer some time, but I'm not perfect here.
I'd certainly volunteer.
Nobody else. So, is the
I've
board okay
never-
with that? Huh?
I've never written an RFP, so.
Well, it's all gonna have to come back to you guys to approve anyways, or change.
It's
Are you okay with that?
I can help set a template for then you to propose and.
You okay with that? Okay.
So it's Duncan and Evan? That are volunteering or was?
Okay.
I volunteered.
Just Duncan?
I thought
Evan volunteered
I volunteered.
with great enthusiasm. Volunteered.
Doug,
You did volunteer? or
That's
you
exciting.
didn't?
He did.
This is a focus on paid staff, and I don't see anything in here where you're looking at paid staff. Basically the administration working with your committees, I think that ought to be some sort of a measure in there. Because I think that's one way of addressing what Adrian was addressing, with, because there are problems, and I think that needs to be. You need to look at that, and I would suggest that your committee be asking someone to look at that structure.
Perhaps one of the deliverables will be to consult with committee chairs and select board members, so then the nuance of Peter's needs and committee's needs could be filtered into that executive.
I'm really thinking about how we drive economic development in this town, because some of these committees are really economic development, and we're on our own, we could use guidance.
Can we just go back for a second to who the people are that are working on the RFP?
Duncan and myself,
Okay,
2 board members, no quorum.
okay.
But the RFP will go back to the board before it goes out. Correct? That was my
Oh,
understanding.
yeah.
That was my understanding. Okay. Okay, next up, industrial park, next steps. Tom has a write-up in his report for this.
And that was delivered today, then the NEPA. Was comments from Duncan, Melissa at LCPC, Tori at LCPC. Were received and put into. The draft that was sent, and so that did make the deadline of the 15th, and that's great. So we
Okay.
should be hearing back shortly and. Go on.
go for another deadline, right?
Well, I think, I mean, after this comes back, the Active 50's already started, traffic, you know, this is the hardest hurdle. Once you get over this, it's business as usual, for most projects, so. This is really the hardest part of the grant.
Okay. Any questions on the industrial park from the board? All right,
There is a meeting scheduled for this Wednesday or next Wednesday?
This one's at 11.
This Wednesday. no.
okay, we already did the website item for Adrian. Next up is the highway department, new truck ordering
I met with
and
Jason.
purchase of existing order.
You talked to Jason about this?
Not a ton, I did a little bit.
I met with him today, and maybe between the two of us, we could come up with the exact concern. But it sounds like Allegiance, there's been a change in sales. And we purchased a package, a truck, cab chassis with a dump body, plow in it. And
Yeah.
but now it's 2 years out for Viking, so it's next June that we're gonna get that truck that we ordered in the fall. And so Allegiance wants us to purchase that cab and chassis. So before it has a body on it. And I don't know that if we have a way around this. Because they just want their side of the money first, and I'm not sure why. Maybe so they're not carrying it, but there has been a lot of changes in Allegiance in the last 3
No,
months.
it's their floor plan cost. It said all this in the email. Did you call? What's his name?
No, I just talked to Jason today.
Okay, last week you were emailing saying you're gonna call him. They said it's the floor plan cost, as far as I
Is
know.
Allegiance what used to be Clark Truck?
Yes. I don't know what floor plan cost is, but they pay international so many dollars a day. To have the truck there,
Oh, $40 a day, correct.
so they're asking us to either purchase it or pay the floor plan. Correct?
I did not know.
I don't
that.
know what a floor plan is.
Cause I asked Jason today, well, who pays the $40 and who does it go to? He didn't have an answer, so it sounds like.
Well, and the questions that arose for me, forget which day we talked, were like, maybe I emailed this.
Yeah, I'm very
What's
confused.
the effect on warranty?
That's my biggest concern. If we own this truck, we have a 5-year warranty. Is that warranty, are we paying for a warranty on a vehicle that we can't use? Or does a 5-year start the day it delivered, even though it's 2 years old, because it took 2 years to get a body on it?
Right.
And
That's a
Well,
major.
that needs to be figured out, because we can't have a rig sitting around for 2 years when the warranty running out on it, and basically I have 3 years left.
I asked Jason if he would come tonight, and he already had plans, but would the board approve his overtime to come to the next meeting? Because it's way over my head about what's really going on, so, and then on top of that is the ordering of the next truck. If we order it now, we're 2 years out. And so, and the same thing's gonna happen again.
Well, if we're gonna call him into this meeting, you better be the first thing out the gate on the agenda, not at the end of the agenda.
Sounds great.
So if I'm reading your report correctly, it sounds like the distributor that's doing the body and sander and all plow and all of that
Viking, yep,
can't do it for 2 years.
that's right. So
Viking is.
Tenco from HP Fairfield went out of business. At first they moved down to New Hampshire, now they're out of the game altogether.
HP Fairfield is?
Yeah,
Fairfield's out of business.
well, at least
I
the
thought they
Tenco
were
body,
still up in Maine.
well, this is the Tenco body part, I believe. They're no longer making them. This is what I found out today, whether we can talk more. And so Viking now is backed up big time, and I don't know whether it's. We signed in for a slot to get in there, and we thought it was supposed to be ready this fall. Now it's next June, and I don't know if that's Viking's fault or Allegiant's fault with the transition. It's moot at this point. If we buy the chassis now, we avoid the $40 a day. Maybe we can negotiate, we'll pay the $40 a day if it comes off the final purchase. but we have the money in. But I think we have to make sure we're not losing warranty and we're not paying that $40 a
That's the
day.
main thing.
The other thing that I mentioned to you was trade-in. What are the effects on warranty? What are the effects on trade-in, right?
I don't understand the effect on trading.
If
If
we trade in a truck that's a year older
with
with another 10,000 miles, they're gonna give us the same amount. $100,000 they offered us for that truck.
Yeah, they're gonna offer us less. We run another one.
Oh, on the existing, well, we have a formal proposal, which means they signed it, we signed it.
So I guess we don't have to play the floor plan
I
then.
mean, I guess we can, we could send it to Bob Fletcher and say, hey, was this enforceable? But that buy-in was considered, they said, okay, we'll give you this much and you're gonna pay this much. Prices are going up and down every day, but
And I
that,
also agreed to deliver a truck, a fully complete truck. By a time certain, is they not?
the time certain was not as part of that proposal though.
Yeah, I think there's multiple things going on here,
Yeah.
but
Can we find out? I mean, I totally get and agree with the warranty issues, but to me, another big concern is we can't take delivery of the truck until 2 years, a year later than we.
18 months after order, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a big issue, man.
Well, it's a big issue too, the extra $25,000.
And this is-
talking
A
about.
separate issue.
yeah, it doesn't matter if it's an international Western, it doesn't matter if Freightliner, what company it is. The holdup is not the truck, the holdup is the body.
I understand that is what they're saying. Can we try and find out if we have any other options? I mean, at one point in time. A lot of people were sending their trucks to Canada to get bodies built.
Well, that's where Vikings out of. I wonder if that's where they're sending back when HPFA.
Well, years ago, I visited a Tenco plant in Canada.
I think we need to know if there's options.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess that's the big thing.
they plow roads in Minnesota and
New York, New Hampshire,
what?
Maine.
New York,
I
Maine,
mean,
yeah, sure, Massachusetts even, I think. Cause, you know. I get that it was broken out, I believe, on the bid, but as far as I know. Clark's had quoted us Vikings price of $112,500 for the fit up of that truck. And they owe it. As far as I'm concerned. Now, I would be interested, if we can't get it anywhere. In making payments on the truck, assuming that it does not affect warranty or trade-in. Because basically, if we could make payments at 0%, correct me if I'm wrong, Rosemary, that would be better than. Interest through a bank. But there's a lot of other guarantees that gotta line up for that.
so the date, delivery, warranty, trade-in.
Value of the trade-in is also, yeah.
I know
That could be 20 grand.
I had a, 10-year working relationship with the last salesman at Allegiance and I don't know who the new one is. I don't know if one's been assigned to us or not. And so that's the lack of communication with Allegiance is concerning as well, that they're going through big changes.
I assume it must be that Clark. Guy was a Jamie Clark.
It's been a Allegiance
Josh
truck for
Clark.
probably 4 years. I mean, I don't know who the clerk are.
It was the one on the email that Jason sent you.
Yeah, but
Well, that's why I told out to Allegiance.
yeah.
Well, that was a company name, there's a person there, with the last name of Clark.
Yes.
Relationship, I have no clue.
Do we need Jason at the next meeting?
No, I think I'm gonna figure out delivery date, warranty, trade-in. I'll probably have Jason do the talking, cause he knows what he's talking, he knows like. The warranty and trade I can figure out, but I think that we need to start look, Duncan's point, can we call other factories and. If we buy the truck, then we have to pay to deliver, that's the other, right now we bought a package. And they're gonna stick with their build date and the build factory that they use, if we go to a different factory. We have to get that cab and chassis to that factory somehow.
Well, here's the other side that you said we bought a package,
Well, we haven't paid
tell them
for it
to
yet.
deliver the package. Why are we calling anybody?
We
It's their
haven't.
problem.
All we did was sign a paper, we didn't give them any money.
So we bought a package or we didn't buy it, or we just signed paper? I think it should be on them to buy. But that's just.
We entered into an agreement
That's all we have is a formal proposal.
and we accepted it. It's the contract.
And so we agreed on prices, we didn't agree on delivery date, you know. So I think our buy-in, I mean, excuse me, our trade-in is safe. And our purchase price is safe. We're just gonna have to pay, you know, probably $15,000 to $20,000 in maintenance on that truck. To hold it that extra year, because it's now older.
That would really rub me the wrong way. I can't.
Yeah,
I just
you know,
can't see it.
I did.
If it's their fault that is causing,
Unfortunately, these companies is never their fault.
Yeah, I mean,
It's always somebody else's.
I think this is where an example where if we had a lease with a guaranteed buyback, with a 2-year, 3-year lease with a guaranteed buyback. Then it's on them to get the truck ready, and if it's not ready, then, you know,
well, why wouldn't they use the same excuse they're using right now on a lease?
well, because they own the truck when they're leasing. You know, where right now we own the truck to trade in, so it's in their best interest to get those trade-ins back so they can make more money on it, so.
Well, chances are, we're not the only town.
I think that's correct.
So do we want pushback on Clark's to solve the problem? Or Allegiance, I'm sorry. Or do we want Tom to have Jason call around and come up with new numbers?
I'd like to have that in tandem, actually. I'd like to find out. If some of these things that we talked about can be rectified, and also we need to be shopping around too.
Yeah, I mean, I updated the RFP to go out, I can just send that out and figure it out.
Been quiet on trucks, you know.
Every day it's gonna cost more.
I think it makes sense to do both, like Mike said.
I agree.
I didn't hear what was said.
To do both.
To push back on Clark Allegiance to tell them to solve the problem, but also to get other numbers.
Which I just said in a second.
Yeah, I think he was saying it, hear what I said, I think.
Yeah, and by solving the problem, we're solving the penalty or the floor plan costs of whatever it is, $40 a day or whatever.
I don't understand that, but I guess. I mean, if they just come back and say, hey, look, you have a formal agreement, if you pay the $40 a day, we're gonna take it off this price. Then you know what, then we're just prepaying interest free until then. That seems reasonable. If, you know, if we're still gonna get the truck and we have an agreement that truck's not delivered, we get the floor plan costs back, and it's really no risk.
That was clear that we get the floor.
No, this
plan
is me
cost back.
negotiating, theoretical negotiation. I'm imagining your allegiance. This is what I'm gonna do tomorrow.
Okay. Cause what I was hearing was that you were gonna have to pay $40 a day,
But
and we weren't gonna get it back.
nobody clarified that to me. And that's what I don't understand. Like, I'm very confused by this whole process.
All right, sounds like you report back to us at the next meeting. With the good news.
I mean, I was under the impression I was gonna get more from Jason. I mean, if you look in my packet, it says Jason's gonna have to fill us in. I'm gonna meet with Jason. I was expecting to get more from my meeting today with Jason than I got, and I didn't get it, so I don't know what to. I can take it away from Jason and or I can go back to Jason with more questions. I guess those are the two options.
Just table it till next time.
My personal take is this is beyond Jason and you should get involved, but that's just.
Well, that's what, I mentioned a few minutes ago. Ought to be in tandem with this. Try to get these things straightened out with the existing deal and also be looking at another deal. So if we can't take care of the one that we're already in, we have another avenue to go.
It's Josh Clark. And Jason's email.
Josh might even. be
Was,
in Randy.
if you have questions, you can contact him.
Yeah, yeah.
Randy's-
I honestly,
Huh?
yeah, okay.
Do you have clear and concise guidance from the board?
I sure do, I mean, but like, you know, when you work with somebody who's your coworker and you make a meeting to talk about something, you trust they're gonna come with the information and. So like, when I didn't get it today, it's like, all I can do is go to you and say, hey, I didn't get it, here's where I'm at, you know, so.
The other one's the rub about ordering a new truck, apparently before September. Cause there's a price hike, but. Aren't we already getting
I thought we did,
proposals?
that we were.
No, it's the next one.
No.
It's the other part of it. Next issue is if we wait to order a truck, the price will go up $25,000 to meet emission standards. The board needs to approve buying just the chassis and plan on ordering the next truck. I think that's taking effect in September.
Jason told me 2020 or for in December, but if you're saying September, again, I only had a meeting today.
Regardless, we did make the motion and meeting to go out for an RFP for that next truck, right?
The RFP is ready to go out.
So,
I mean, part of that was tied to the 5th employee. Right now, we have 5 trucks and 4 employees. Do we want to keep that, or do we want to figure out a way to run it down with 4 trucks and 4 employees? And there's considerable savings to our equipment, you know. We have, this is multifaceted. The RFP is ready to go out, and I think Mike made it pretty clear that we need to try this from 2 angles. So we put the RFP out, we get numbers back, but we also need to think about how many things we need to operate this town.
Well, if we only have 4 employees, we need 4 trucks, we need 5.
they had 5 before when they had 4 employees, didn't they? They had a part-time guy come in on the winter.
I think we'll see.
Years ago, we had 2 tandems, a straight job, and a low profile.
Yeah,
International, and a pickup truck.
6-wheel low pros are awesome. They can dump, they can plow, they're just a 6-wheeler, but they're awesome.
And you don't need a CDL license to drive,
Yeah,
which is another big.
they're a little more expensive than the truck we just bought, but they can do a lot more. They've dumped, side dump, bed, live floor, the bed.
Wing plow.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I mean, I'm not sure why we ever went away from those, but
Capacity.
we did, but.
Are we good on trucks? Adrian's weathering away here.
I'd say we don't.
You're on the edge of your seat on this conversation.
Yeah, I think we should hold off on any decision on actually ordering a truck. I mean, you make a good point.
Well, we made a decision to put out the RFP to get prices. I don't think.
At least we can do that, that's not gonna hurt anything.
Right?
And be clear, I think we should get clarification, so that the price hike of 25,000 is for emission standards that are going into effect as law in 2027. But I think they're going to be added to trucks in the 2026 lineup, was my understanding. And so we could go to, by putting out the RFP with that specific question, we could know of other $25,000 from our last RFP, we know there's a difference between one brand and another brand, you know, when they were within $5,000 of each other, so there's some value. It's like, say, Western Star is not putting that in until 2027, well, then that's gonna be a lot cheaper than the international that is. So, yeah.
Does, if we put out the RFP, I mean, it's a fair amount of work, just. I just don't wanna put out an RFP for the sake of putting out an RFP. There's a fair amount of work involved in
We just call around.
putting that out, but.
I could just call around and keep notes on pad. Kind of what I had to do for the RFP anyways, because it was.
I mean, we already motioned 6 weeks ago. That's
I remember
RFP to
doing
go out.
that, but maybe I wasn't here when you did it.
I think you said there's no harm in doing it.
Originally, there was a want to order. And in a meeting, you had come to the board, right? And we had said we would go by the state spec. Right, which was Clark's.
I thought that
For
was-
whatever reason, and then the next month's meeting. there was a want to get competitive bids. You had said, because we just did this process, it was quick to get together and send back out the door, and they'd have to be listed as like municipal ready or something.
I think that's making a very, what you said is true, but I think it's a different time, and I think his point is, are we putting out the RFP to buy a truck right now? Do you want to do that right now, or do you want to just get information?
It doesn't comport with our capital plan if we buy it now. Does it?
No, if we ordered it right now and they're 18 months out, it probably would.
That's why we. That's why Evan described, that's why we did that process.
When's our next tandem get replaced? I don't know. We're going down like way too many rabbit holes. What's this? We're in 25.
But Tom also raises a really good point about equipment being equal to employees. And we don't know yet whether we're gonna stay at 4 or go to 5.
And with that new 5500, that can do the salt roof. I mean, that's the same thing as that CV, and it also could be the foreman's truck. I mean, that's why Jason got it, to replace the foreman's truck.
This just doesn't sound like something we're making a decision.
We're not making a decision on it, but I guess it has
Am I putting
large
it on
impacts
RFP or
on our
just
tax
calling
rate
it?
for several years. I thought it was already happening, so I guess if it's not happening, sure, let's talk about it next month. We good with that? Thought the RFP was already happening, so I was saying don't halt something that's in the process.
I'm okay with it as an RFP, but I'm equally okay with Tom doing some basic research and finding out what the options are. But again, I when that decision was made, we had not made the decision to not rehire the 5th person.
Very accurate, yep.
So to me, that kind of changes the
We
landscape.
still haven't fully made that decision. We have a consultant and everything.
Didn't hear you.
We still haven't fully made that decision until we have the consultant.
Right.
Look at everything.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's kind of my point, is we don't know exactly where we're gonna be, so.
Mhm.
Totally fine. Everything's getting more expensive. That's the gist of it. Next up, roadside mowing, Tom.
Were you looking for something specific, Lucy?
The grants, the non-match grant, no match grant.
We're coming right up on that real quick.
Okay.
Roadside mowing, so the road crew did not rent the excavator with the boom mower. Jason is gonna try to get prices on contracting that out. But the question came up. We could hire a part-timer to do that, since if we don't have 5 guys, normally the guys are gonna do it and save some money, but we could hire a part-timer to do that, but the caveat is, it has to be somebody who's extremely experienced. In the past, we've hired somebody like Alex Nato who has that experience. And so if we do the part-timer, we have to use somebody, because of the liability of boom mowing, we have to, it's not just, oh, we're gonna hire somebody to run an excavator. It needs to be someone extremely experienced, or to be aimed towards contracting out. I don't think not 6 1/2 dozen the other. My recommendation would be reach out to Alex, see if he's interested, then rent it and hire him. It's still gonna be cheaper than having a 5th employee. And then compare that to the cost of a contractor.
Yes.
But that's a lot for me to go out on my own, so I just want guidance on that.
That sounds fine to me.
Rest of the board okay with
Doing
seeking
both,
part-time?
checking.
I
if Alex-
absolutely support the idea of part-time. I also think, though, that there is a fair amount of mowing that could be done with equipment that we own.
The ditch bank mower that we have is broken, not safe. It broke when they did the, what do you call that thing?
The landfill
Thank you.
cap clear.
Broke with that and you can't get parts for it anymore. And
The arms on it are really worn.
it's not. Jason he doesn't even want to sell it, he wants to scrap it because it's if the gearbox been shredded a couple times, it's not safe.
Is this for mowing on Railroad Street too?
No, just
No.
for like back roads.
Dirt road. Bushwhacking.
Bushwhacking.
Kyle sent us an email, a whole bunch of problem areas on Railroad Street.
Yeah,
So you're open to the concept of part-time seasonal help?
or we
Yeah.
could, if you think. If you think 4 guys can do it. We could rent that excavator, or we could look at the cost of buying a boom that would fit the tractor. With the way that the ditches are, the new ditch, you meet the MRGP, the ditch bank mower doesn't really work, because you have to reach to the other side. But it's, your point is very valid.
Well, it begs the question of why we have the size tractor that we have. Besides roadside mowing, it's set in blowing the leaves off in the fall, why do we need it?
They clear ditches, which does help with significantly with spring runoff, so it's not, the culverts aren't plugged. With the leaf blower, and it does your greater berm, which is part of MRGP requirement, it has a disker, and I think mowing is the third. And I think the things that we've discussed, but we've never pulled it, we never made a decision on. Where one was the boom mower. We remember he was gonna go look at one in Rutland or somewhere in New
It was
York.
over in New York,
Yeah,
and it was sold. It was a real deal.
and then the other thing is having a brush hog, because we have to brush hog. The landfill, which is like 10 acres, we have to brush hog the skate park, that sides of that. There's, is there in any other locations where brush hogging might be needed, I can't think of it right now, but. We were contracting that out, but if we bought a brush hog, we could have the guys do it themselves if they. But those were things that were discussed in the past what the tractor could do. I'm not saying it's what it does now. And I think those things were put on hold because of having 4 people. I don't know if they have the time to do those additional tasks. So it might be better just to find a contractor. The issue is contractors are getting out of roadside mowing right now. It's getting harder and harder to find somebody.
I don't know how we ever did it with Thor before.
Magic. I think you have your answer. For roadside mowing.
Because I'm just gonna reach out to Alex, see if he's interested, and I'm gonna try to find contractors. There hasn't been one yet, but I think trying to get one is important.
I think we should do more than just reach out to Alex. I think we should actually put an ad either on the website or on FBF, and we can certainly
Screen
them for their qualification. You might get a retired V-Trans guy who that's what he did.
Yep, no, that makes good sense.
You never know.
Yeah.
So I just think we should do it as an advertisement rather than cherry picking.
Yep.
But previous. Part-time employees could be notified.
Absolutely, I have no issue with that at all. I think we should do that.
I mean, another
That's for
thing.
Steve Smith, maybe Steve would. Yeah.
Another thing is.
Yeah.
This is a Mark Woodward conversation on county governance, but. Can other towns do it? Can we compensate them? I know there's gonna be a bunch of pushback, but really, if you look at like the amount of roads in Malone County, really. One town and one guy in a month, they probably do.
Well, it goes to my
all of
question
them.
with the tractor, I mean, that tractor probably gets. Used 20 days out of the year, maybe,
At 200 to 400 hours, not a lot.
I mean, it's not a lot of time.
How much does a boom mower cost?
New about 28, I think was the last one I looked up,
Was the flail mower style.
which is liability wise is a lot safer. It's because that's what the problem is. It's like guys are getting out of it. It's because of brush hog styles. Or you're either throwing stones in the road, they're throwing them 360 degrees, so. Flail mower is much safer. Reliability.
I'm just adding it to the conversation. It's more okay to talk
That's
to
a good
people
point.
in some towns. I think we
Sure.
both get
Maybe
together.
there are highway departments who have. The equipment and the manpower that would be willing to subcontract it out. I have no issue for that.
Okay, deal. Can we move on?
You want me to reach
Okay.
out to other towns as well?
I don't think it could hurt.
Can we go?
Taking at least two.
We give it a little shuffle again.
Yeah. Before we do that, I don't wanna lose track of, on his first item of his report, Tom has a issue with regard to trimming brush at Evergreen Ledge. I just don't wanna lose track of it.
No, we won't. Cause you'll remember it.
Yeah, that's on the report.
I might not,
That's
that's
all.
why I raised the issue.
That's on-
Because I should, you're saying it there.
Okay, we're gonna mismatch it up a little bit. I'm sorry, Casey, but there's two really easy ones to do. I'd entertain a motion from the board to approve noise ordinance waivers or moves for July 8th, as well as a noise ordinance waiver or no, moves is for July 28th, July 12th, June 28th, July 12th, and July 19th, as well as a noise ordinance waiver for the Lamoille County Field Days.
Same. Go,
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Further discussion.
we're all on listen.
All of them listed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Sorry, did you have something you wanted to add? Or you're just,
Not at all.
okay.
Have fun.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, no problem.
The next mix up. Grants with zero match and below $3,000. Tom is seeking approval from the board. In the form of a motion to approve all small grants under $3,000 with no matching towns from the fund to be authorized by the town administrator with notification to the select board.
So,
Second.
Further discussion?
Will you be able to keep like a Excel sheet or something to like keep track of the grants we're going after?
Usually that's, to be honest,
Well, for now,
yeah, I mean, for new ones.
yeah, until we have a CED.
Yeah, typically I lean on Rosemary, like whenever there's a grant, I go in and I ask and I say, hey, how we track, it? She tells me how she's gonna track it. I tell her what's coming and then she says, oh yeah, I'll do this, that, and so. Whenever there's grants, I would go in and say, hey, Rosemary, what are the grants for X, Y, Z?
Okay,
So I think it's our sort of being tracked.
okay,
I don't know if the maker of the motion would be willing to accept a friendly amendment, but I would like to see in any case where you do that, that you report to the board at your next, in your next report that you did it.
Yeah. I don't feel comfortable making the yeses. I'm gonna handle all of them, and maybe this should be part of the motion. I really like the hearing no reservations, so that way you're aware of it, and maybe it's like not by 4 o'clock that day, but by 4 o'clock the next day. So that way it doesn't take a formal motion of the board at a meeting, but it allows the process to move forward. And that's what I would like to do.
I'm fine with it. I'd just like to, even in lieu of that, I'd still like to see in your report that
I see you.
this grant was done.
I do see you. I just need to make sure. Is the amendment friendly to the motioner and the seconder?
it's fine with me.
And with me.
Are you clear on that, Donna?
Yep.
Casey, what you got?
Yeah, it's in the amendment department.
You're killing me.
Honestly, $5,000 would be more realistic. Green Mountain Fund grants are up to $5,000. I think it's more realistic to have that as the ceiling.
That gets purchase policy, right?
That's why I said 3,000.
3,000 is within a procurement policy limits
I mean, it's,
of discretionary.
I mean. One could argue that no money is being spent and it's a no match.
Right.
Even though it's money out, money in, you still have to pay a bill over 3,000 is what's hard for me to justify. Unless we make an amendment to the procurement.
Well, I don't mind going to 5,000 because that's the kind of the block, right? Yeah,
That's a maximum, for example, for Green Mountain Fund grants, which are such a common go-to grant. And you're never spending 5,000 all at once. It's always
I'm gonna ask it.
different purchases.
right.
A little different thing.
Now, were you trying to make an amendment? Or no?
I could just withdraw the whole thing and make a clean one to start with.
Does this have?
Are you
to-
withdrawing your motion?
You could do that easy and then tidy it all up and then ask for a second. Without going through all these amendments.
All right, Michael's withdrawing his motion and amendments.
Before you make a new, can this be just residents or does it have to be committees?
Think any small grants.
Okay,
It's just grants with zero match and below X dollar amount.
so any residents could do that.
I can't get
Any
behind,
resident?
I can't get behind that.
Well, what-
I can't either.
Maybe, like,
I mean, it still would go, I mean. Committee is always advisory, so whether it's a committee or a resident. It's, the board has to say yes to put in their name on the line to this project, right? And so that's why that hearing no reservations matters so much. Because. And the more, if it's from a resident, it's gotta be clear, like who it's from. You know, what it's for and the costs, and. My follow-up this is gonna make a request to make. To have me bring to the next planning meeting. An amendment to, or a change to the procurement policy to match whatever you do right now. So if it's 5,000, there's gonna be a 1 paragraph exemption. For this with the exact, what the person needs, what it's for, you know, so it'll be like really clean. Moving forward, that's what I would like, just for everybody's clarity.
I would definitely vote no on, it needs to be a committee or a duly authorized entity of the town. Be a grant, I can't get behind the resident.
Yeah.
For grant.
okay, so not the reimagined task forces.
Well, I guess they could go through a select board member though.
Through a select board member.
So then, like, if they came to Duncan and said, Duncan, I have this idea, I'd like to do this. You could go to the rest of the board and say, I think this is a good idea. To apply for this grant. And then it's so,
They could just come before the select board in a meeting.
like, the point of this is to. Move it in between,
Change it by phone.
otherwise it would just be at the meeting.
Maybe go through it.
I would stick with the $3,000. All due respect. I understand there's a grant source that you commonly use that's 5,000. There's other grant sources out there that I'm sure other committees go for that are over 5,000, I believe. We're just talking about $30,000 in money for Legion Field. Well, whatever.
I'm fine with the five.
Somebody make a
I'm gonna
motion.
make the motion, I'm gonna move to allow small grants, $5,000 and under. With no match to be authorized by the town administrator with notification to the select board. Now, does that cover what you were worried about, because it is notification to the select board?
There'd be no reservations from the select board.
There, I think to cover Duncan's, you would allow small grants $5,000 or less for town committees. Or entities.
And to be reported.
To the select board.
Are you done with your motion?
Yeah,
Second,
Okay, there's a motion, a second. Is there further discussion? What do you have in there, Donna?
Yeah. A motion to allow small grant $5,000 and under no match to be authorized by the town administrator. With notification to the select board. And then I guess it was added just for town committees. So it was sort of question that, I mean, could it?
Was your motion just for town committees?
well, it's town, well, that's what we're looking for. Small grants in the 5,000, no. Yeah, town committees, you mentioned town
Yeah,
committees,
I just.
you wanted town committees in there.
But it's just for the town in general, but not for a specific committee. It's still-
About authorized town entities.
Yeah.
There you go,
Right.
authorized town entities. Sounds good.
Okay.
But that's an amendment and you're friendly with that? Oh, thank goodness. All right, further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and the ayes have it. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Katie.
All right. Library relocation.
the moving company's coming tomorrow, to lower the building, which is really exciting. It was supposed to be today, so there was quite a lot of chaos in the morning, but, they're coming tomorrow and expected to take 2 to 3 days. And once that's done, we're gonna have a survey out there to, put the final reading of its true elevation. And from there, we'll be able to stamp the civil engineering drawings as ready for construction, and then we'll put it out to bid for a GC and apply for the fire and safety permit. We can't get the permit and we can't put out the bid until we have those final drawings. And so we're just waiting on that elevation from the set down. So we're really excited.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Appointment policy. How's the board feel?
I'd say we beat it enough, let's do it.
Looking for a motion here.
Well, move, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
the appointment policy with amendments.
Okay, motion a second, further discussion. Where's that in our packet, Tom?
Very good.
The very back?
We're pretty close to the end of the meeting.
Right after Adrian's presentation.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and the ayes have it. Can you get us a clean copy for signatures, Tom?
Yes.
Okay. Next up, TA and CEDS priority list. Where is that printout?
That's next page, just keep flipping. Did we do road reclassification?
No.
No, I had them mixed up in the packet, that's right next to that.
Okay, sorry. How's the board feel? On the priority list as it is, I know that when I had gotten it to Tom, it was slightly later in the day, and I had missed a couple of things for the TA. One was a note that I had for a projects tracking list and a grants tracking list, and I wrote like Hyde Parks, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like Hyde Parks. Does the board want to mold this over, being that I got it to Tom a little later? Are there certain things
Yeah.
that anybody excessively disagrees with or strongly agrees with? Because if we can get a priorities list, I think we just need to start applying dates to things and prioritizing them. These are not in a specific order at all.
That was my question. Okay.
I really just want to say out loud, thank you. Like this is awesome, and I really appreciate it. Thank you that was a lot of work, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom. So are we talking about this at our?
Did you have another one besides the one that you just mentioned, the project tracking list?
That didn't make it on the list, but it needs to.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
But did you have anything besides that one? Or in addition to that one?
I did not have anything in addition to that one. Does anybody else see anything I'm clearly missing, or do we want to go over this list and use this filled out for a long discussion at our next meeting?
You have anything about flooding? General,
About what, Adrian?
like flooding, just like generally? Or is it just kind of fit into like every kind of thing?
What specifically would you be talking about? I guess?
Like,
Things I currently do is, administer the FEMA process, which is getting close to wrapping up. We have a few open projects. And that's pretty big. I mean, there's several $100,000 in that, and then I work with LCPC and community members. You've seen recent emails to just help with navigating where the community interest is in protection and future properties where the buyouts are. But all of those conversations that the town is, I'm usually present. If I'm not taking an active role, I'm just listening and then passing it on. Or at least making sure people are aware of the interests of the town so that they don't get lost in the plan.
Could we add it to 14, Adrian?
Yeah,
Work on. Just add. FEMA, I thought I saw buyouts in there somewhere. Buyout?
Well, here's the deal, and this is just a culmination. I have FEMA buyout properties plan under CEDS.
Which is very different.
Yeah, that's like a
That's like after it's done.
community development plan.
Yeah.
It's not
Right, it's not.
managing the
not bulk.
process, so.
And I'm doing like the buyout, like I'm making. I'm making the phone calls and pushing things to make sure the buyout process happens. And that residents are aware and, those types of, to make sure the assessors are there, that's. Getting once the buyout process is done, my role is gonna be. Much,
maybe could you go through this list, Tom, and say like. What you think would just be you and what would just be a CED and what would be collaborative?
Absolutely, and I have a running list of my own on a down in my office, like a pad, and what I would like to do is. Granted, if this is still in its infancy as well, but I'd like to put my list with this, it's probably gonna be twice as long. And then kind of send it to you guys to then maybe order it even, but it'd be nice for you to know what I've been working on, because sometimes I don't think you know all the time. Yeah,
How is that project tracking software coming?
it's not.
There was the issue with it.
We're segueing here, but. This is a priority list from the board for employees. Employee feedback's great, and adding things on that's great, but.
Well, I want to throw you my list because I think it might include things you may have missed.
Okay.
Sure. So project tracking software. It's failing?
Yeah, there was a mess up because when I signed up for it, it said that it had unlimited seats. So I thought like anyone could go on there and like add to projects and do things on it, but you have to pay for each person that uses it.
Gotcha.
So
Oh, it's unlimited, but there's a cost.
yeah,
Yeah.
Really free.
Have you canceled it?
I did cancel it. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion since this is supposed to be a priority list? And I think we've agreed in concept that at least these items be on it, and Tom can perhaps add to this. As a homework assignment, can we all try and come up with a priority ranking for these things?
If everybody gave it a 1 through 10 score, I could just average scores. If you said. Develop a winter maintenance policy was a 10.
Yeah.
And you said it was an 8, I would just say. It ranks at 9.
It's a 9.
Okay.
I can do
That'd
that.
be a lot easier than remembering.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, it would be easier if everybody just gave them a number.
Yeah.
And I can culminate all of them and give everybody a color. You can pick your own color and say 10, 10, 10, 10. One averages out to 10. Everybody cool with that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
No,
it's
that's
interesting,
great.
you pick that one right off the top, because to me, that's a pretty important one.
Okay,
10.
Give it a 10.
in the interim, could you just do you wanna look at more project tracking software? Do you wanna just share your Outlook calendar?
My Outlook calendar is really just for meetings, but what I do, I have like a running list on a pad of paper. And so as I go through the meetings, anything that doesn't get done within those 2 weeks, I run. A list of tasks, right? And anything that doesn't get done or comes up during the middle of the week. Goes on this running track, and I'm always like crossing out, reshuffling, because it's always happening and. Every day is a new day, there's always new jobs that get added to it, and so it's just a constant. Self-navigation, and what I love about this is it's bringing back things get lost in this shuffle over time. This is really great to see. What sometimes you make judgment and say, hey, that's a low priority item, I'm gonna let it get lost in the shuffle because there's other things happening, and it's great to see what the board's wants and needs really are versus my guess is, so I've kind of been guessing for the last year and a half, almost 2 years now. And this is great, like I'm really excited about this. This is,
Yeah. You could try the Microsoft thing that's free, just for like the top 10
yeah, so
projects.
it only does 10 projects at once.
No, you can do more, I think, but I'm saying, so
I
it
just feel
doesn't,
like fun.
yeah, just see how it works out.
That'd be great.
I wouldn't discount Ron's Excel spreadsheet project tracking list either. I think.
I sent that out and I have a file on the computer where hold up. I started that project back in November. I sent it out and Randall didn't get back to me, Isabel didn't get back to me. Rosemary was the only person who gave, so I was ready to do it, but nobody, a lot of the stuff, so that really was. I think what I needed was you guys to say, hey, how do we do this, And I think.
Mr. Chairman,
Uh,
we have 19 on this one here. How do you want to do that? You want to do 1 to 10, or you want to go by
just give me a,
1 to 19? And let's say number 8 to me would be the first, number 1.
no, just score it on a 1 to 10. All of them could be 10 if you think they're all top priority items.
Okay, I get you.
And then I can just
Fine.
throw everybody's
As long
score
as
on
I
one sheet.
know you really want to do it.
Yeah,
Fine with me.
and if there's an item that every select board member votes 0 for, it's probably gonna get nixed,
Right.
right?
Right.
Are we good with that for homework?
I created
Yeah.
this in October.
When do we merge in Tom's?
I'll have to send it to me.
Can you send it to everybody?
Yeah, send it to the whole board.
And I don't know if this makes any sense or not, but I used to keep what I call the to-do list. And I shared the to-do list with the village trustee chair and the town select board chair.
Yeah.
And as an item got done, I crossed it off and then sent out a new to-do list so that, they could see it with a date on it. So they could see when it was done. I think there might be some value to that if we come up with this priority list.
I'll let the project tracking list.
I used to
It's
send
one
out
that-
like a monthly report, and in that had my list of things and it was always shrinking and growing. But then we kind of shifted and it got on the agenda, so that kind of went away. And so this is, that clarification of what you're expecting from me, really huge, If I'm always keeping this to-do list and but this is the first time I've heard that you want it sent out, so I can do that easily every week. Especially I usually sit down Monday and that's one of the first things I do is reassess what tasks are left open and then, reconfigure and I can shoot that out quick.
It might help us from letting things accidentally drop off the list.
Yeah.
That's why I had said at the
I
beginning.
really appreciate that direction. Wow.
All right, road reclassifications, are we good? Does the board want to pick 3 roads?
Why is it only 3? Why can't you just pick all 7?
The process is not short. We have to have a meeting at each of these roads. Right, I guess we could have one meeting where we all drive around, it has to be pretty well timed, but it would take, give or take, 6 hours. Am I right with
It'd
that?
take a while to, get, I don't know if we can do all of them. In one.
Yeah, that's why when the road reclassification idea was pitched to the board.
And there were also, so I had. It's a reclassification. I think we should at least look at Sinclair Road, the class 4 part of Sinclair Road. And potentially reclassify it from a 4 to a 3. Simply because of the number of houses out there. I guess part of my point is there may be, we're looking at it all in terms of reclassifying class 4s to legal trails. There may be some roads that should be reclassified upwards rather than
What,
down.
Plum Island and
But then we
French
have
Hill are
to
prime.
do all the work to bring them up.
We would, and we'd also get, the class 3 mileage reimbursement on it, which won't. In theory, I'm just throwing that out there as an example. We wouldn't, in my opinion, we wouldn't take that over unless we could verify that it met our class 3 road standards. And if it didn't, and the landowners were willing to bring in enough gravel, do whatever ditching was required, etc., to reclassify it. To me, it's no different than maintaining any of our other class 3 roads.
Right, but are you saying if all of the landowners that use that road and bring it up to class 3, then we would accept it?
Mhm.
Well, I would more agree to that than the town paying for all of the work, but.
So I wouldn't, totally, I would not suggest that we should do any work other than basic maintenance once we accept it. And
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I guess.
But- Can we pick 3? Or I feel like there's plenty to go down. There's good arguments to go up.
There seems to be.
LCPC doing a traffic count on Wickham Island Road and French Hill may prove that they meet class 2 standards. Which would make us eligible for class 2 paving grants.
That's where that.
Why don't we do mine, Joe? That would be a big one.
47 and 12 are slim picking, low hanging fruit if you ask me.
Yeah. No brainers. I mean, you could do 10 and add those in, it would be awesome.
Currently under Beavers one.
47, 12, 21, 22, and 23.
How's the board feel about that?
Wait, well, hold on, okay, 47. 12. And what?
21, 22, 23. Class 4 and class 3 sections.
And are those the 21, 23, are those the mine roads?
Yes.
Sections. And there's one little spur road off Mine Road.
I think that's 22 or 23.
That's
23.
The spur road is 23.
Okay.
That goes to the cemetery.
It would not,
Abandoned.
it would not bar access, but it would just prevent, the difference is MRGP requires maintenance from towns that it never required before, so keeping roads class 4. There was no disadvantage to doing that. Until the MRGP came out, because now any class 4 road with 1 foot or greater. Gully erosion, we're required to do the maintenance to fix it, we're required to replace culverts.
Right, I know, and then 21, 22, and 23 is put a distance.
Yeah.
We can get that off.
And the road crew goes up there before every major rainstorm and puts in water bars. So it would save a lot of maintenance.
Yeah.
I mean, I just met, when Jason was out, I had to meet with Ryan, and I that's where I met him, he was up there with the backhoe. Pulling out the beaver swamp, because they plugged a culvert up there.
Does the board have the stomach to do all of those segments this summer?
Can you repeat what they were?
12, 47, 21, 22, and 23.
I will move. Can I do that? Are we ready for that?
The movement would be for Tom to start working. I don't think we need a movement, do we? The process, right? We have to have a public hearing, it has to be warned 2 weeks in advance. We have to have 2 hearings. Isn't one on site and one here?
Yeah.
We have to have a select board meeting there.
Uh-huh.
We have to have a select board meeting here in a public hearing. If there's 2 public hearings, that makes this. We're at 6 weeks now.
Why can't we? just-
And every landowner abutting that road needs to receive a certified letter. Which with these ones, I guess, isn't a huge deal, but
What a job.
If it's that lengthy of a process.
What am I-
We do all of.
what am I missing?
I think you got it.
So you would warn a special select board meeting at 5:30 and then 6, and then 6:30, and then you. Will have the regular select board meeting, and then 2 weeks later hold the hearing.
but you have to physically like go see all of the roads.
The statute requires that the select board visit each road that's being proposed to be reclassified.
Together?
What's that?
I always figured together with a specially warned meeting would be a
Yeah, that's the
better
best way,
idea.
and people follow you around. It's like a big car parade.
Well, the deal is, I think I could get 4 easy in my pickup. I've got pretty high off the ground, 4-wheel drive, we can drive that.
If you could make it through Town Highway 12, I'll be impressed.
No, but
Which one's
21,
the one?
22,
It's 12 on the
23.
road off Clay Hill Road.
Yeah.
I think I could
It's a
get
plot
through.
road.
Oh,
It's like Clay Hill to plot.
Yeah, yeah.
If we go through the whole process, do we decide at the end, like if we actually reclassify them?
You
Or
re,
can we choose not to?
You'll hear from residents, not to, for sure.
Uh,
People are gonna.
There'll
show
be a
up,
lot
and
of
you're gonna-
pushback.
There's gonna be a debate.
Really?
yeah,
They're always, yeah, I mean, and then you just have to weigh the benefit, it's cost benefit of. What is the difference, what is the value of keeping it open, what is the value of not?
Mhm.
Maybe you go out at the site visit and you say, well, it's a flat road in the middle of the woods, there's no risk of gully erosion. Maybe we leave it as a class 4, but you don't know that until you.
The standard for reclassifying, I believe, is if it's in the public good and interest
Mhm.
to reclassify, and that decision is left up solely to the select board.
and one reason I would say we don't do them all. I guess it's a matter of opinion. I read it as every resident abutting the road needs a certified letter. I think Tom's interpretation is abutting the road segment that was being reclassified. But we would need our attorney to answer that. Cause
I think we.
like
could-
you look at these, like. Cotting Hollow Class 4, if it's really every abutting landowner
Mhm.
or to the road, that's a lot.
Mhm. But I guess I'm saying, like, if we go through we could do all of them, and we go through the whole process, at the very end, can we decide not to
Do some.
reclassify some?
Sure, yeah. That's what we did in Beecham, is we did a bunch of them,
Yeah,
and then some got reclassified, some didn't. And it was a long arduous day, and it's probably 4 hours of site visits, and the hearing was really, there was just kind of the checkboard checked, okay. What are your thoughts on this road, or, and then the ones that there was concern for,
Mm.
it wasn't even worth having a discussion, say, okay, we're not gonna do it.
right,
Funny enough, we could probably ask the ATV club to escort us.
Oh, yeah,
Motorcycles.
they like to
Oh, that'd
truck
be
us
so
around.
fun.
Goodness, I'm not touching that one. Are we good on that list? Can
Yeah.
Tom start the process?
Sure.
And we're gonna have to pick a date. For our first public hearing. If you wanna look it up and get us more info, propose a date via email.
Yeah.
Okay,
For the viewing.
yeah, for the viewing. Maybe if you look the process up and just send it out to the whole board. That way we all have the freshest in mind. Anything on old business?
We do a viewing like. One evening and the funeral the next day, is that how?
Funeral? Kind of.
The funeral the next day, did you say? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
No, the funeral has to be at least 2 weeks after the viewing.
I don't, unfortunately.
Mike,
You're
you're
great.
great to see.
I do usually bring it. Your phone's got one. Phone's got a magnifier.
But my. It's,
It's all broken.
broken.
Mike, which
Anything
road are
on-
you interested in?
Anything on old business?
yeah, we're gonna bring it out to the cemetery
Can,
on mine road.
can I don't know if it's old business, but it's in his report. About, it's item 1 on the. On his
Yep.
report,
The
Evergreen Lake
brush,
Cemetery.
evergreen ledge.
Alright, and in years past. The Hooliers. Donated the use of a walk behind brush hog. And I did the brush hogging along fence lines. I would be willing to do that again. I think. If the board would authorize. Payment to Johnson Farm and Garden for the walk behind, my guess is Alan will probably donate it, but. I would be willing to brush hog it if the board is willing to pay for the walk behind brush hog.
Is it gonna be less than $3,000?
Way less.
Gonna fit with our procurement policy, right?
It would, yeah.
Does anybody have any objections to that?
Had one, this one was, so.
No, this is a walk behind
There's,
brush hog that they had to. Well, we don't have brush hog at all, do we, Tom? For the tractor?
no,
Yeah.
there's
Why don't
no,
we rent it? You're gonna rent it. You're not gonna buy it.
No, rent.
Yeah.
there's no objections from this side of the room for you to stay underneath the procurement policy amount. Do you need a formal motion?
If everybody's cool with it, I'm willing to volunteer
Yeah.
my services to
Probably not.
do it.
You do more work for these cemeteries in this town than anybody. And I
Yeah, like
appreciate,
showing it.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
We all do.
The Lahoulier family actually appreciates it too, because one of
That's
the
how they're
areas
excited.
is where their father is buried.
Yeah. Okay, do we
Yeah,
need,
up there.
do we need an executive session? Or we're evaluating?
Ever been out there?
Oh, yeah. Found the cemetery.
What road is it on?
Awesome.
Hines, 28.
That would have to be securing real estate, but it was
Is that a
warned
private
about.
cemetery?
It's the one that.
It's a family cemetery.
This is a public.
The family
document, so-
cemetery. Red Hooper
We can bring.
found that years ago or whatever.
As long as.
And he
you don't
laid
make
all the
decisions
stones
or
down.
negotiate price. You can ask about.
Laid them down.
Okay.
I went to the say last summer and we couldn't find, we found the perimeter of the cemetery, but we didn't find any stones.
Well, they're there. Just gotta dig around.
Yeah, we did.
I found this tape.
scratch around a
He
little bit.
had tape around it in the fence. You can see little pieces of tape around it. Well, you found the whole thing.
Yeah, we found it.
Yeah. I've been there twice.
Tom, can you give an update on what happened with Solo Election Hall?
So I met with the studio center, and just, I wanted to not let that relationship, that was something that Randall was working on, I just wanted to like just touch base, tell him what was going on and just. And just kind of had a quick, so we had a little tour of it, it used to be the town meeting house. It's a really cool building, it has a lot of potential for a lot of things, as I've noted. Not, and I think what's interesting is like, those aren't their ideas, those were ideas that were brought to them from other people. But the main question is if they're willing to, I mean, unofficially give it to the town for what they got it from the town. But what do you do with the space? You know, I think it has a lot of potential, but there's no parking and it's a old building that it has some deferred maintenance and you could do. It is a committed project. It's not just so I think for the town to go into it, my recommendation is to have an idea in mind with a budget and a plan, and then it would be okay, but it would be hard to take that building and just have another kind of, I don't want to use the word dead weight, but it
How much did they pay the town? You know?
don't.
How much was awarded?
In my mind, it's 75,000, but I can't remember if I saw that or if I was told that.
It was on one board or something. It was sold. But I'm questioning like a trustee board. Cause that was quite a while ago, that was sold.
If you know, Duncan, was that,
I don't know that it happened before I started to live here.
you're kidding, was that long ago?
Yes.
Didn't you say for all?
It'd take a sale.
Didn't you say the weather thing?
Well, the weather vane that I guess is here. Was actually upstairs. I think that was the original weather
It's
vane.
in the tower up above.
Yeah,
And I,
but there is still a weather vane on that building that the town owns.
I was,
The Eagle
yeah,
is a town owned, that was specifically reserved out.
I was told the one that's in here was dropped over the railing and jabbed. Straight in the floor, not straight, made it out.
Yeah, it was dropped over the balcony, but I don't remember it.
How many years ago was that?
Do we-
Trustee then?
Do you have
But we
more?
found the weather?
Yes. But it-
No.
Do we wanna move
You must have been a trustee.
steps with it?
Cause I mentioned that weather vane. I said that needs to be held back.
Do we wanna think
Sure,
about
so-
possibilities? Do we wanna do a tour of it?
I don't know.
Unless they told us, like.
It's definitely in the heat.
Adrian's asking questions.
For the little
I-
lecture hall, do we wanna tour of it? Do we wanna think about the possibilities? Do we not wanna think about it? Not do
We
it?
wanna think about it. I mean, it does need a new foundation.
Well, I took a walk around and I, in past life, I had done some foundation stuff and only the front the building needs to be pinned, but it's water pushing back in. I mean, it really only needs the curtain drain in back to catch the water. The foundation's already been replaced on 3 sides. It's only the front, you could tell they left the facade to look old. So it's not a whole lot underneath it that needs to be redone, and it could probably be. I call it facing up, where you put like a buttress on the inside to just hold it in place if the building was pinned.
Well, I haven't been there for years, I wouldn't mind going in.
But the water needs to be, there needs to be a footing drain in the back. That's where it all comes from, and it's going right through the middle of it.
I have notes from a meeting. Well, a whole bunch of people, Studio Center folks, Randall was there. Some historical preservation people. I'm trying to think how long ago it was, but there was a lot of good information that came out at that meeting. I'll try and find the notes and send them to you.
That'll be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, but I'd love to do a tour again and consider possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it. Duncan and I talked on the phone a little bit. I think I can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday. And parking is, you need to have parking in mind.
There is none. Basically.
No parking.
And I think you'd have to take up the front lawn, probably 6 to 8 spots is the only solution. But if the town and village offices were not combined, it could easily house just the town office and have elections elsewhere.
Is it big enough for our post office?
They had 6 to 8 spots in front.
And it needs a loading dock.
We're selling.
You're not gonna put a post office.
One of the big problems is the lack of parking, I think.
Yeah. And one side of the parking would have to be sacrificed to a ADA ramp.
It's a postage stamp lot. I mean, the building. The property lines are probably 3 feet,
Yeah.
the sides of the.
Well, I did ask that question and it's to the drip edge of Fisher Auto Parts, but it's still just a driveway. It's not like you can fit, cars in. It's just a straight road in, road out, and on the other side, it's the same. It's right on the edge of the other person's driveway, but it's still straight in, straight out.
Right.
There's no.
I think it'd make a great welcome center, like in Stowe, how they have like the Stowe vibrancy building.
That was an idea that I guess we came out of Charles Tom brought to them, and another concept that was brought to them was like an artist guild upstairs in the balcony. And if the person managing the welcome center could also you could have one person from the guild as part of their commission, set a commission, they work X number of hours, run a well, there's a lot of work's already been put into it. I don't have that information, but those were the ideas that were thrown at me. Say, hey, this is what other people were thinking for the space. It is anyone who hasn't been in it, it's worth going in because it's a neat building and a part of the town history for sure.
Was it just you and Vermont Studios under there?
At that time, it was just, I just wanted to capture that relationship before it was gone and make sure they didn't sell it without considering the town. And now I'm passing it off to the board for either more direct from my way or to the new, in terms of EDS, but.
I love the building. It's a great old building. I'd love to own it. But I'd really like to have a plan for what it was gonna be used for before I put any money into it.
Oh my gosh.
It's just another one of those things that is a money sink.
Well,
It's
do
just
we think we could make a
Yeah,
plan?
just about to send those notes to everybody.
You think we could make
I
a
hope
plan?
it's a dream.
Along with the 100 other things we could.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, like on our.
The problem with the select board making a plan. Is that there will be members from the community that show up. And are upset because we didn't have 10 different community input workshops and we missed this or we missed that, and they'll kind of insinuate that it's special interest even though it's not.
Mhm.
So am I advocating for us to build a plan? No, I'm advocating for the planning commission,
Mhm.
LCPC, BCRD. To facilitate community discussions and come up with 10 ideas. Of which the select board can say we like this idea and this idea and make a plan.
Mhm.
That's where I am, but I'm just one board member, Adrian.
I would think like, it's kind of like my restructuring Frankenstein version. I have like a buyout properties planning task force. And I know I just have like buyout properties, but maybe it moves to more like just development or something. And they would ideate and give us suggestions from meetings they have.
I'm fine with suggestions. I'd also like to know how it's gonna be paid for, you know.
Well, that's a part of a plan.
I guess.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, the idea of a welcome center, who could argue with? What you could argue with is, how are you gonna pay for it? And who's gonna pay for it? The idea of a craft guild or whatever is a great idea. But is that something that the town wants to front? There's gonna be costs associated with owning that building that are not gonna be paid for by users in that building.
There'll be
Whatever,
costs
whatever it
in
is.
perpetuity.
Yeah,
Johnson
Not
needs
just
an
a building.
Alexander complex.
yeah, we need, yeah.
I mean,
Well, we
maybe
need a Stowe tax base.
maybe
or
we
something,
offer it
you know?
and maybe we build a teen center though.
Yeah.
Maybe a teen center.
One of
There's
the
a lot of
challenges with that building
How much can we afford?
is, that historic preservation money. If you do anything that significantly alters the inside of the building or the outside. You won't get historic preservation money,
Right.
as much as it's a historic building.
Mhm.
So that funding source is closed.
Unreliable.
We could do what Waterville did. You know, there's an option.
What did Waterville do?
Or
Well, the town hall in Waterville is a little bit different, buildings, different. They use it for all kinds of,
probably.
yeah, use it for all kinds of functions. They rent it out to anybody for
People have that thing rented out almost
all
year
the
round.
time. It's gonna, my daughter's gonna have a baby shower there in a couple of weeks.
And maybe if we had hung onto it and not sold it initially. We could have incrementally over time put some money into it and. Been in a place now where we could, that's where I kind of say. It's great to think about owning it. I love historic preservation and history. As much as anybody around probably, but. Wearing my select board hat, I just can't. Think about taking that on as a town project. Without some sort of a plan up front.
Well, at one time, there was a big move in Johnson to sell this town property in the art school. And to put it on the tax base. You remember?
Yeah.
For taxes and extra taxes and everything, and that was a big selling point. And
Yeah, the money was also used to. Build this building.
right, and the thing is that the art school was a good steward of all the property that the town and the village sold.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't ask for any better treatment of previous town and village property.
Yep.
So.
Truth in.
Is there a need for an executive session?
It's on there, I wasn't sure what was gonna come out of the,
We talked about one for contract negotiations, but
but you guys made the decision in open session for the CADS intern and
that wasn't what it was for,
that's.
but
Do we have any
it was forgotten.
information
She
with
added at the
regard to
beginning.
the NDA?
Would,
I guess we could finish that.
yeah, but it's not warranted, we didn't really add it.
Do you have any information from our attorney on?
Maybe
That it needs to be shared, or could be
getting-
shared?
Okay,
there's something from our attorney. We could go in under attorney-client privilege, but
Yes,
I could give you an update, but I don't think there's any action to be taken yet.
yeah, cause this is only warrant for employment evaluation.
yep.
Go home.
move to
Alright.
adjourn.
Meeting adjourned 9:56 PM.
Recording stopped.